Hey, just checking you read the timestamp before you dove headfirst into this. You know what you're getting into, right? You have no one to blame but yourselves if you're watching this video, right? Okay, so long as we're on the same page. I do want to get a lot of my thoughts out there, and I do realize there might be some things that you might not care about and some things you might care about a lot more. So I did put in the time to split this up into a lot of different parts and leave timestamps. So if you're just concerned about one specific character and my thoughts on that, you can go to the timestamp, because this is a very long video, but I do think everything I have to say on this video is pretty important to the current state of the game, and this is seriously as short as I could make it. I would also like to add that there are a couple things I get wrong in this video that I edited in post, some corrections, but since it's just text, and because I imagine most people who watch this video are probably going to watch it in the background while doing something else, and maybe aren't going to be watching the screen, there's going to be a sound like this whenever there is a moment where there's going to be a correction on the screen that you would have to read if you want to know what I got wrong. But it's usually just numbers, like, oh, this ability does this much damage. Oh, wait, it does this much. You know, you get the idea. Either way, that's enough preamble. This video's long enough. Let's get right into it. Are you ready for the slop? This video is going to be, in my opinion, raw, unfiltered, unscripted, probably unedited or lightly edited depending on how much I stutter, and no gameplay. It's slop time, baby. Basically, if you are interested in my opinion, then obviously you're probably still going to enjoy this video, but if you're here to watch gameplay, you came to the wrong place. This is definitely the kind of video I recommend that you play in the background while you do something else, and feel free to put it in a faster speed if you don't want to sit through the whole thing, because while I don't know how long this is right now, I have attempted to record this multiple times, and I'll tell you so far, I haven't managed to get it under 2 hours, and I kind of want to do that. So, I don't know how long it is right now, but I'm kind of terrified. Anyway, I'm going to try really hard to condense this down. This is not only a video I've already tried to record once, but I tried to record a video where I'd be talking about a lot of the things I'll be talking about in this patch review before these patch notes came back out, about 3 times before, but once again, every time it just kept being way too long, but I couldn't make it any shorter without leaving out a lot of things I really wanted to talk about. Either way, I decided probably the best way to start here is actually for me to just read the patch notes without giving my opinion to start, because a couple of you will probably here literally just to know what the patch notes are. D.Va has been buffed. She receives less of a movement speed penalty while firing her guns now, from 40 to 30% slow. Her micro missiles now move 25% faster, which means that they will hit more often, because it will be easier to land them because they move faster. Doomfist has had his stun duration nerfed on both his minimum and maximum wall stun, depending on the charge of his punch. The maximum wall stun nerf isn't that bad, but the minimum one is pretty severe. It's nearly half the stun time, which is pretty bad. Winston's got an increased range on his Tesla cannon, which is a nice little buff, but it probably won't change that much. Bastion has been nerfed, thank God, to have a 2-second longer cooldown on his configuration assault, and the spread of his weapon has been increased in 10% while he is in assault mode. Cass has gotten a 2-second increase to his magnetic grenade. Mei has had her slow reduced by 10%. Sombra has had her ultimate cost decreased by 10%. Sym has lost her 25 extra HP, so she's back to 200. Widowmaker's gotten some small buffs because Sombra was too good at bullying her after the rework, and though these buffs probably aren't going to change a lot and Sombra's probably still going to shit on her, there's still decent buffs. I was terrified at first when I saw Widowmaker buffs, but honestly these are reasonable. Basically just you get ult more often, and the unscoped rifle, the SMG, which is not very strong in its own right already, now is a little bit more accurate, which in fairness the DPS of this thing isn't bad. The reason it sucks is because it can't fucking shoot straight for shit, and so you lose loads of damage because you can't shoot straight with it even if you aim straight. So the fact that you get less spread on this is honestly a good change, I think, and the best way you can buff Widowmaker, because if you buffed her actual like kill power as it already is, that goes in a bad direction. But the main attraction is this is supposed to be the patch to finally bring in the support meta. How support's been way too strong, how healing's been through the roof as of recently. This is the mid-season patch that's supposed to fix everything. That's what it's been hyped up as, and I have mixed feelings. But it exists, and I at least appreciate that they've tried. But we'll get back to my full opinions. Anna has gotten a 2-second increase on her bio grenade cooldown. Baptiste had his immortality field reduced by 25 health and had his cooldown increased by 2 seconds on it, from 23 to 25. Illari has had the size of her bullets halved, which means it's going to be way harder to land shots on her now, literally twice as hard. Because before, there was a lot of leniency. You could literally miss someone's head by like a centimeter, but because the bullet is big enough, it would still count as a headshot. So, like, if you tried to aim, like, next to a Tracer's head, and, like, you're aiming at the air next to their head, not their head, the bullet would be big enough that you would still get a headshot. Now, that's been hard, that's going to happen a lot less, and you're going to have to actually aim a lot more with Illari. Healing Pylon has had its health reduced from 125 to 100, and its cooldown has been increased from 12 to 15 seconds when destroyed. Kiriko's gotten a 1 second increase from 14 to 15 on the wait time for a Suzu. Lifeweaver has had its ammo on his healing reduced, and its maximum heal charge reduced from 75 to 70, and his life grip increased from 16 second cooldown to 19 second cooldown. And Zenyatta is the only support to get buffs this update, getting 225 HP again, getting a buff to Harmony Orb, and getting a buff and a nerf to Discord Orb, which we'll get back to later. Oh boy, okay, a lot to cover here. I will try and make this quick. I really will. And we're going to get to supports. D.Va, these are good changes. D.Va's having a rough time in Overwatch 2. She was really strong on launch, but even on launch she didn't get to have a day on the sun, because the only other character that was crazy strong on launch was Zarya, and Zarya shut her down. And that meant that even though she was a crazy strong character on launch, she didn't really get to run rampant as much as she should have been able to, because Zarya was keeping her in check. And ever since, D.Va has never been meta. In fairness, she's never really been bad either, but man, she has just never really had the spotlight ever since the beginning of Overwatch 2. So giving us some nice little buffs are nice, and while these buffs are quite on the safe side, I do think that's responsible, considering I don't even think D.Va's weak. It's just that I don't know why you use D.Va in the current state of the game. This is already a tangent I got in a previous attempt at recording this, so I'm not going to get into the full details of it. But I think the main problem with D.Va is that she's an off-tank dive tank. And those two things are a bit of a weird combination, and she's the only tank in the game that's both of those things. And off-tanks already are weird in Overwatch 2, but in my opinion, I actually kind of go against the grain. A lot of the community think Zarya kind of didn't transition well to Overwatch 2. I actually think now she can double bubble herself. Zarya works fine as a main tank and an off-tank at the same time. Roadhog has a bit of a weirder transition, but I think Roadhog still works, just definitely plays differently. D.Va, though, I do think is the one off-tank that really hasn't made the jump gracefully, because she's supposed to be a dive tank, and she kind of is, because she's still faster than most tanks, and she can still get high ground anytime she wants with boosters. But the thing is, while boosters comes off cooldown a lot and lets you get high ground, boosters actually isn't very fast. And because you're a big, fat, easy-to-hit target, one single spear, one single hook, one single sleep dart, one single CC of any kind completely shuts down any dive you go for with D.Va, and because you can't move very suddenly or erratically with boosters, it makes you a very easy target for your dives to get shut down. As a result, I kind of feel like D.Va isn't good at diving anymore when she's supposed to be a dive tank, because she was never supposed to be the first one to dive in. She dives in after the Winston, after the Wrecking Ball, and theoretically after the Doomfist if we ever got Tank Fist in Overwatch 1 back when we had six players and 2 tanks. But, of course, now that there's no one for her to dive in after, she's just diving in as the front line. It's way too easy for her to get punched out the way, speared out the way, rocked out the way, hooked out the way, when she's so easy to hit and moves so slowly even while using boosters. So in my opinion, she kind of can't dive anymore, and that's what makes her weird. Now she can't dive, she's not a weak character necessarily dead on arrival, because she still has loads of health, she still does loads of damage, and a defense matrix is still the ability in the game which theoretically has the most damage mitigation potential, probably out of all tanks. But in reality, that's kind of hard to use effectively when almost all of these things only are helpful if you already have something to respond to. If there's a nearby teammate who needs a defense matrix to save their life, D.Va's amazing. If there's a nearby enemy who's overextending who you can just boosters into and hold left click on, D.Va's amazing. But if you just kinda, need to start a push, but the second you peek your head out you're gonna get chain CC'd into oblivion, D.Va's suddenly not very good. There's nothing you can do to stop yourself from getting absolutely destroyed by chain CCs, and, well, your dives are just going to have no teeth unless your team really helps you out. And so D.Va's now in this weird spot where she always feels great or terrible, but she only feels great when the enemies let her feel great. When the enemies do things that she can easily respond to and deal with, she feels great. When enemies make the mistake of letting her defense matrix save someone's life, when enemies make the mistake of overextending to a point where D.Va can easily chase with boosters, she feels great. But when you actually have to initiate with D.Va, D.Va simply does not function as a tank. She does not make space. She only enforces space because she is an off-tank, and that's what off-tanks do. They enforce the space they already have, they do not create more. Okay, that already got a little bit longer than I would have liked, but that was shorter than last time. So, Doomfist. The stun time has been reduced on these things. This is my opinion. I recognize that Doomfist is likely probably the strongest tank in the game if you know what you're doing. Like, that's not even just like oh, you need to be crazy good with Doom, but like, if you're crazy good, then he's good. Because I would have said in the past that Doomfist, like, overall is a pretty weak character, but if you're crazy good with him, he's probably one of the best. Even if you're just above average with Doomfist. Even if you're not a crazy Doomfist, you're not fucking get quaked on, but you're just better than the average player, and you're playing quite a bit. I still think Doomfist right now is probably one of the best tanks in the game. I fully agree with that. I think that's true. That being said, I actually completely disagree with nerfing him. I think tank is in such a sorry state that basically no tank should be being nerfed right now, except maybe Zarya or maybe Orisa. But even then, don't get me wrong, I would not complain about Orisa nerfs purely from a fun perspective, because Orisa sucks so much fun out of the game, and so does Zarya. But I don't even think Orisa is overpowered. In fact, statistically, if you didn't know, Orisa's actually shit. Orisa's win rate is in the toilet, and while there are a lot of confounding factors there, like the fact that Orisa is a character that people only pick when they're losing and no one actually wants to play off the bat, which means, of course, she's going to lose more games, and also, Orisa is naturally just a low-skill character, so of course she shouldn't be winning many games at high ranks. But despite all that, I still think, even with all those factors out of the way, Orisa's probably not that great, even though she's quote-unquote meta. I think Orisa is only such a problem because she's extremely unfun, and she doesn't counter people by being better than them. She counters people by existing. So she shuts you down for being a better player because it's just oh no, someone's better than me, but they're playing a character that I can counter with Orisa. Guess I won't play the character I want to play, and instead I'll play Orisa because the enemy player is simply better than me, but I don't have to be better than them to counter them if I'm Orisa. Like, that's how it goes, you know. And that means makes both players miserable. The person playing Orisa doesn't even want to play Orisa because they're only playing Orisa because they know they're going to lose otherwise because they're getting tank diffed. And the enemy tank is going to be miserable because they were having fun until the enemy tank picked Orisa. You know, until you picked Orisa, whatever. You get the point. So yeah, Orisa does nothing but suck fun out of the game, so I wouldn't be opposed to Orisa nerfs, but I don't even think she's weak. Like, sorry, it's strong. I don't even think she is. I think Orisa is weak, but also she should literally never be strong in her current state. It's one of those things, like, I hate that that's true, but I do think the way Orisa is designed right now, she physically cannot be allowed to be strong, not even kinda good. Because if Orisa is even just kinda good, that means people are miserable. Orisa as it is right now is a character that punishes you for attempting to make high skill plays and rewards you for turning your brain off. I'm not even saying that as like every Orisa player is dumb. I know there's the occasional smart Orisa player, even though they're a rare find. But the thing is, even the smart Orisa players, it doesn't matter. Because what smart plays can you make on Orisa? If you try and make a smart play on Orisa, like going for a long shot javelin because you've got the ability to hard predict where someone is going to move even though they're miles away, then yeah, it's skillful to land that javelin from long range, but you're far less likely to get the kill than if you just throw the javelin at the person right in your face and deal actual follow-up damage because they're right in your face and your gun does like 0 damage at range. You know, you get the idea. Anyway, so the reason I bring all this stuff up is because I think while Doomfist is the strongest tank in the game, I think that tanks should not be getting any nerfs right now. I think every tank in the game is struggling and they need help. But except Zarya. Zarya is probably the only one I would accept nerfs for. And again, Orisa, just from a like fun perspective, but I don't even think Orisa's good. Anyway, but Doomfist, while I agree he's the strongest, I think he should be. Like, I'm just going to say it flat out. I think Doomfist should be. I'm not even a Doomfist player, like I've tried, and I kind of like him, but Ball is my preferred pick out of those dive tanks, out of those high mechanical skill and movement dive tanks. Anyway, I'm not even a Doomfist player, but I gotta say this. Give it to the Doomfist players. They deserve it. Doomfist players, generally, if they're good at Doomfist, they're better at the game than you. I'm sorry. It's just true. Doomfist is the hardest character in this fucking game, and you can't convince me otherwise. And I'm a Ball main. I'm not even a Doomfist player. I'm a Ball main, and I will tell you. Although I also think Ball is probably one of the hardest characters in this game, Doom is harder. I think Doom is harder. I think if someone is shitting on you on Doom, it's a skill diff. It is simply a skill diff. Unless you're a character that gets hard countered by Doom, which I don't think there's that many characters that really are hard countered by Doom. Unless you're playing a hard counter, like a character that gets hard countered by Doom, Doom is skill diffing you if you're losing to Doom. So I think Doom being one of the best tanks is healthy. And if Doom isn't one of the best tanks, then dive tanks are dead. Winston is dead because of Bastion. D.Va is dead because she isn't even really a dive tank anymore. And Wrecking Ball is dead because the one thing Wrecking Ball lacks is burst damage in a meta where everyone can instantly get full health in like half a second because of how ludicrous heal power creep is. So while Ball has a really powerful kit, he can't actually use it to do anything because he needs time to kill people. And if you take longer than 1 fucking second to kill a support in this meta, then they will never die. You will never get a kill. You are useless. All this to say, I think Doom is a necessary evil because the only reason that Doom is good while the other dive tanks are in agony is because dive tanks should be good. They are the highest skill characters in the game, and so anyone who is good with these dive tanks should be winning a lot. But the reason why characters like Doomfist win and other characters don't right now is if healing is way too high and burst damage is really hard to come across on dive tanks, then the only way you can get around that is stuns. And who is the only dive tank in the game who can stun? Doomfist. There you go. Anyway, I think this is a bad nerf. Not because Doomfist doesn't have a good, decent argument to be nerfed. I do agree he's the strongest tank, and since he is the strongest by a decent amount, you could argue, oh yeah, it makes sense to nerf him. But I think it's bad because Doomfist is one of the few skill-rewarding characters left in this game you can play. I really mean that. I don't think that's a permanent statement, but for right now, there are so many skill-demanding characters that are just getting fucking bullied and booted out of the meta, and I do not like that we're sending the message here that we're now kicking out Doomfist. This stun is just... This stun is needed for Doomfist. It's absolutely critical. Winston at least got a nice little buff here. It's not going to fix him. Well, maybe the Bastion nerf will fix him. But Winston, design-wise, is one of the most well-designed characters in this game. He literally has no bullshit. This is the... I actually think I would say Winston is the single most honest character in this game. Like, I'm sorry, I know there's not many of you, but there's 1 or 2 people out there who probably think Winston's bullshit. I swear to God, how? How is Monkey bullshit? No, but seriously, as far as I'm concerned, unless the Winston has really good follow-up, at which point maybe then you can explode on the spot and not have time to respond. If you die to a Winston, especially if he doesn't have follow-up, it's not like his teammates attacked with him, and he just attacked on his own. If you die to a Winston, that's you. That's on you. You didn't die to a Winston because the Winston, oh, he pulled this bullshit ability, he one-shot me across the map. Oh, he just fucking stunned me. Oh, he just pressed this button and now I die automatically. No, if Winston killed you, it's because he called you out for having shit positioning and punished you for that. Winston is one of the best designed characters in this game, and so when Winston is good, the meta is good. Of course, Winston ain't great right now, unless you're playing Overwatch League level, but that's because in Overwatch League they coordinate enough that the second the Winston drops, you get hacked by Sombra and shot by Tracer. At which point, then Winston does become very strong, because you do basically get one shot when you're being hit by, you know, Sombra Gun and Virus, Tracer's Pulse, like... It's not Pulse Rifle, that's Soldier. I just realized, is it Pulse Pistols? Is that what Tracer's gun's called? I actually don't remember. And Winston's Tesla Cannon. When you get hit by all of those things at once, then you kind of get one shot. But yeah, outside of coordinated Overwatch League play, Winston has been having a rough time, mostly because Bastion has gate-kept him. While Winston can escape Bastion, that's only if his jump is off cooldown. So all that happens is, Winston jumps into a team, Bastion's there, he presses, you know, his button, and then Winston doesn't get enough time to survive because the damage is too quick and too fast on Bastion, and so he can't even jump out. You know, he doesn't have enough time to jump out, and he can't jump out, he dies. And obviously there's nothing the Winston can really do about that, because the only thing you can do is not jump in. But if you don't jump in, you don't make space, which means you don't do your fucking job as a tank. Your options as Winston are sit in the corner and don't do anything, and literally just let your team play without a tank effectively, or go in and get fucking mauled by Bastion almost every time. So yeah, Bastion's been gatekeeping Winston pretty hard. I think he needs buffs. I'm glad he got this buff, but... This is one of those things that's quality of life more than an actual buff. His secondary fire having range is going to be more fun, it's going to be cool, and it's going to be fair, but also it's not really going to make him a lot stronger, I don't think. Bastion has had his cooldown on a configuration assault increased by 2 seconds from 10 to 12. I am not going to lie, I already thought it was 12. What the fuck? Why the hell is it 10? Seriously? This shit should be on a 16-second cooldown minimum? No joke, but okay. In fairness, this is still a good nerf. Bastion probably is no longer hard meta, but like, I still think he's going to exist in the meta for a bit unless he receives more nerfs or the meta shifts. Weapon spread is also increased by 10%. I don't know how that just matters, because usually weapon spread changes actually matter a whole lot, even though people can overlook them. But in this case, considering this is a weapon you're only using at short to medium range 90% of the time anyway, I don't know if it actually matters. Especially because it can't headshot, so it's not like you're missing headshots because you got more spread. Bit hard to say. A lot of the times when spread buffs happen, or spread nerfs, where spread gets like widened or narrowed, end up having huge impact. It's usually on characters with headshots. Like the brief period at the start of Overwatch 2 where D.Va was actually fucking insane, but unfortunately just got gate-kept by Zarya being even more overpowered. The main thing that made D.Va insane was the code of spread on her pellets was a slight bit narrower, and even though it only sounded slight, it basically made it really easy as D.Va to just W into someone and hold left click, and if they're a squishy that isn't getting healed, they would basically die every time. Seriously, I wasn't very experienced with D.Va at the time that Overwatch 2 came out, that fully came out. Obviously, I played in the betas as well. So I was playing D.Va a lot at the start of Overwatch 2 to learn her, since she was already good anyway in Overwatch 2 at the start. And I gotta say, as someone who was just learning how to play D.Va properly, I still found it like 10 fucking times easier getting kills on people compared to Overwatch 2, 1 D.Va in Overwatch 2 with that reduced spread. And the second they increased the spread by just the tiniest bit, it went back to feeling like Overwatch 1 D.Va, where you really had to focus and try hard to actually get the kill on someone if you W'd into them and just held left click. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah. The thing is, obviously, D.Va can headshot, and Bastion can't, so I think that might not matter. Cass's Magnetic Grenade, cooldown increase from 10 to 12 seconds. Okay. This isn't actually a balance change. This is a fun change. No, I mean that seriously, though. This character is... Cass is already considered really underpowered right now, and this is nerfing him even harder, which is kind of dumb, but in fairness, it makes the game less frustrating, because everyone hates Hinder as a mechanic, and, you know, less Hinder is going to make people happy as a result. So, yeah. That's Magnetic Grenade. I think that is literally all I have to say. Oh, no, wait. I think I would like to add, out of curiosity, I don't know if I have anyone watching in this audience that is like a Grandmaster or top 500 player. Obviously, I'm not. I mostly play quick play, and obviously, although I don't play competitive, most of the people I run into are quick player are Diamond or Masters, so that gives you an idea of my skill level. I don't know, if you have cracked hit scans in your games and you're like Grandmaster or whatever, and you know what they're like, do you think that Cass getting his old fall-off damage numbers back, like, I don't know, maybe not like old, but you know, like 30, 35, 40 meters drop off instead of 25, because 25 is fucking stupid. Do you think that would be better? I don't know, I feel like the way you fix Cass is you have Magnetic Grenade, have the physics of the current Magnetic Grenade, which hinders, but remove the hinder and have the old damage. If you didn't know, when Magnetic Grenade didn't hinder, it also used to be really different in physics. It basically didn't fall at all, and it had a stupidly short range. So it kind of fucking sucked. But it dealt 130 damage, which is obviously a lot more. I think that the best Magnetic Grenade you could make is one with the current physics, where you can throw it long, and it like attaches like more like slowly, I guess, and you have to aim it a bit more. But it does damage instead of hindering, and I don't even think it should do 130 damage. I think it should do 100. And you might think, wow, that is a shit ability. I wouldn't disagree. Here comes the weird part. I actually think just letting Cass's weapon be really fucking strong, but making his ability shit is fine. At first, I wasn't super about it. At first, I was kind of into the idea of giving him like a better Magnetic Grenade, like just working on Magnetic Grenade. But I think we've seen at this point, you can't make this shit work. The only way you can make Magnetic Grenade work is to make it damage. But even the old pure damage Magnetic Grenade, when it was just short range, was a really, really fucking boring, bullshit, dumb ability. So now, the long range grenade, but with the lesser damage, I think is a lot better. Also, in theory, although it would be unlikely because of the travel time on it and the arc, in theory, you could deal more damage at long range with a Magnetic Grenade, even if it is only 100, because, you know, you wouldn't have fall-off on the grenade, whereas you would on your bullets. But either way, I think Cass should have much better damage fall-off so that his gun is really fucking good again, and I think it should just be his ability to shit. I think his dodge roll should lose the damage resistance. I think that his Magnetic Grenade should be weak on purpose with a long cooldown on purpose. I think that if you're playing Cass to use the pistol, and you should be able to do
You should be able to land cool trick shots with the pistol. You should be able to be rewarded for landing high skill long range shots. You should not be punished for trying to fight people at a longer range, thus trying to use your skills more effectively. I don't understand why damage fall off is a thing in this game. Well, I mean, I do obviously understand why in small doses it exists. But in large doses like they do with Orisa and Cass, I just sit there and go, how does this make the game better, though? How does this make the game at all more enjoyable or more skill testing? Now, once again, I'm open to be proven wrong. I've seen 1 or 2 correct hit scans, but I will fully admit it's a rare occurrence in my experience. And obviously, it's probably something more Grandmaster players and top 500 players run into. So if you're a Grandmaster or a top 500 player, and actually you have more experience with these cracked hit scans, and you're saying, no, don't give Crass's old, like, you know, fall-off ranges back. The people who can actually aim good with him will just fucking delete everyone. If there are people who can tell me that in the comments with that experience, I'll hear you out. I think that I'm likely to change my mind if that's the case. But I just haven't heard that. I don't know. The people I watch who are Grandmaster and top 500, I don't hear anyone seeming to think that old Cass, when he had longer range, was a bad thing. Everyone seems to have preferred that Cass. And considering I think Cass players would prefer that Cass too, and people who are sick of getting hindered would probably also prefer that version of Cass, I don't understand why that's not the version of Cass that we have right now. Mei Nerf, not much to say. This is good. Her slow has been reduced from 40% to 30%. This is good. Mei is too good right now. To be fair, it's more because of the meta than her being overpowered, but either way, it's a help. No one likes being slowed, especially tanks, who are the easiest people to bully with slows. Mei already does too much bullying of tanks, and not enough bullying of other people, so you know what, a slow reduction is good in my book. Only thing I will say, at this point, when the slow is getting less and less noticeable, and the freeze is only on her ultimate, while I don't want the deep chill passive back, because I know that only made the game worse, I will admit, Mei is kind of losing her identity. But I do think this is a low priority problem. Ideally, it's a problem we would fix, but it's far more important to make this character not a fucking demon to play against that turns this game into hell on earth for every tank that touches it. It probably would be a little bit better, instead of worrying about character identity, just making the character fucking, like, tolerable, you know. I'm being a bit emphatic here. I don't hate Mei as much as most people. I'm kind of just like parroting what other people say here, but I understand why people hate Mei so much, because in fairness, I think a lot of the reason I don't hate Mei that much is I don't run into her that much, and because she's rare and because I like playing her myself, I can't really hold it against people when they go Mei a lot of the time. Most of the time, at least. Because I know it's kind of fun playing Mei. I know her playstyle kind of jives with me, even though I don't play her all the time. And I don't have to deal with Mei very often, so when it happens, I can just go like, well, hey-ho. But I could see how if I had to wake up every day and play this game as a tank, and deal with a Mei every single fucking day, I would lose my mind. So yeah, I think that a rework is, unfortunately, probably something that is needed at some point. But I also am just crossing my fingers it's way down the line. That seems likely. Anyway, yeah, I think this is a good change overall. Sombra has gotten an ultimate cost reduction to her EMP of 10%. This is the right idea, but I think she needs more. Okay, current state of Sombra. I kind of already gave my opinion in this video, but I think I've got the same opinion, just clearer now. My opinion on current Sombra is there's a reason everyone tells you she's either broken or shit. It's because Sombra is now unbeatable in 1v1. Sombra was already, like, very good at 1v1s. Now she's literally fucking unbeatable. She can kill you in, like, 1 second out of invis if she's good enough. And there is just no chance you have to react to that. When you combine that with hack, when you combine that with her escape tools, when you combine that with invis, when you combine that with how much better her pistol is now, that means that in a 1v1, she will shit on you every time. And so I think Sombra is overpowered in that context. If you can find an enemy target to go for who is on their own and 1v1 them, you will fucking dumpster them as Sombra. Here's the very, very big asterisk. If the enemies simply play together, they don't even have to huddle right on top of each other, just playing within each other's line of sight without being too far away from each other, you will never get a single fucking kill all game. It's that simple. And unfortunately, Sombra does not have any tools to force people to split. If the enemies simply decide, oh, they have a Sombra, let's just stand next to each other and never split apart. It's like, Oh, I guess I'll just sit here in Invis then and wait for you to split. Oh, you're not gonna split? Oh, like, half the game has passed and I've done practically nothing, just sitting in Invis waiting for a target. And every time I do get impatient and finally decide, fuck it, I'm coming out of Invis to go for a kill, I do like 50 damage and then instantly have to bail before I die because everyone jumps on me straight away, and then I look back and the heat support is already at full health again. You know... It's just, Sombra is broken if you can find even one person on the enemy team to single out and bully. If everyone on the enemy team simply sticks next to each other, Sombra does not do shit. She is a useless character in that context. And she can't even do anything to play around it. Now here's the thing. This was kind of always a little bit true, just not this bad. But there was one saving grace Sombra had before this rework. EMP, with its faster charge time and its stronger damage, was not 100% consistent, but at least a semi-consistent option to force people to scatter. If you really did just spend the whole game fighting supports, TPing out, fighting supports, TPing out, fighting supports, TPing out, because every time the two supports are just ass to ass glued to each other, if that really was the case, at least you would get ult charge each fight, at least you wouldn't die from those fights, and although you'd wasted a lot of time, at least after all that time you could finally build EMP on top of them and watch them scatter. And now you can't even do that. EMP's damage has been severely nerfed, and the time to charge EMP got ludicrously long. To the point where now EMP isn't even really good at that. It's kind of compensated for by the fact that EMPing out of Invis into hitting a hacked target with a virus is practically an instant burst kill with almost no way to stop it. But even then, using your entire fucking ultimate as Sombra to kill one player, when you used to have one of the best ultimates in the game, and on top of that, this is an ultimate which now takes even longer to build, man, that's a fucking hard pill to swallow. I don't think that makes it good all of a sudden. You know, you really are in a situation where, as Sombra, if the enemy team simply refuses to split, and knows, you're Sombra, you want us to split, we're just going to stick ass to ass next to each other. If that happens, you are literally playing a character whose weapon does nothing, whose abilities only help them stay alive but don't help them get kills, and whose ultimate is to get one kill, effectively. You play a character who spends all game charging their ult, getting 0 kills, and then you use your ult to get one fucking kill. And then the very next game, you have supports who don't stick ass to ass, and suddenly you get 20 kills and 0 deaths. And it's like, oh okay. And it's, literally, that's just the dichotomy. Anyway, sorry. Long preamble. Point is, right idea here. EMP did need its cost to come down, but I think it needs more. I think 40% damage EMP needs to come back. Or, if they're unwilling to do that, EMP needs to have its cost decreased more than 10%. I know that EMP was already one of the strongest ultimates in the game before. That's just not true anymore. You don't understand how much of a difference it makes. EMP on a squishy now does fucking 60 damage, man. No joke. And that's if they're full health. The maximum damage you can do to a support, excluding Lifeweaver, I guess, 225 HP on Lifeweaver. If we exclude Lifeweaver, the maximum damage you can do on a support with Sombra's EMP right now is 60. That is less than a single fucking shot from Anna's rifle. I think that basically explains the issue here. Your ultimate is to hit a support with an amount of damage less than a single shot of Anna's rifle and turn off their abilities for 1.5 seconds. And if you can't kill them in 1.5 seconds from 140 HP, then you don't kill them. Now, in fairness, you probably can kill them in 1.5 seconds from 140 HP. But again, if you do that, wow, you blew your whole ultimate, which takes extremely long to charge now, on getting one fucking kill. And if you want another one, you're going to have to kill the other support as well, who is probably now back to 200 HP because of the support passive, and also the hacker's worn off. So, while you're still going to do the increased virus DOT, you're not going to do any extra, you're not going to have the ability lockout on them anymore. So then you basically just have to kill a full health support. Yeah, the 40% damage EMP has to come back, I think. Or it has to become a really fast charging ultimate like it used to be. Symmetra. Health reduced from 225 to 200. The rationale here is that Symmetra now has far more capability to fight at long range after they reworked her a little bit to make her turrets far weaker and her right click far stronger. If you weren't aware, turrets have been giga nerfed. I don't actually have a problem with this. Like, people still complain about Symmetra, but honestly, I'm gonna fucking say it. Unless you're like bronze or silver, like, skill issue. No joke. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, Symmetra turrets do not dominate. They really don't. Do you want to know how much damage a Symmetra turret does a second right now? 15. To put that in perspective, an Illari turret can heal more than double the amount of damage that Symmetra turrets do. It takes 3 Symmetra turrets just to slightly outpace the healing of an Illari turret. That's how low the damage of a Symmetra turret is. With current Symmetra turrets, if you stand inside the beams of 3 turrets simultaneously, and you're a 200 HP squishy character, it will take longer than 4 full seconds for you to die for that. You literally just have to stand there and wait 4 full seconds without moving, without breaking any of the turrets, to actually get caught in a situation where the turrets can kill you without the Symmetra having to do some work herself. Turrets are only deadly now for their slow, not for their damage, and I think that's a good thing. The trade-off of this, of course, in the past, when they made this change, was making it so that Symmetra's right-click flew way faster and was able to do 100 damage, meaning that 2 consecutive fully charged shots now are able to 2-tap a lot of characters in the game if they receive not even 1 point of healing in between shots. Which a lot of the times they do, but sometimes they don't. These were good changes. I like these changes. It meant that Symmetra was no longer a character that would camp on point and drop turrets, because that just fucking doesn't work anymore. People will tell you it still works, it doesn't. People who try and tell you that still works are people who have no idea how to fucking play Symmetra and think, because they hate playing against Symmetra, that playing Symmetra is just spamming turrets everywhere and then sitting down and watching the turrets get all the kills for you and having no skill. If you actually try playing Symmetra and try doing that shit, you will absolutely throw, and your team will hate you for it. Anyway, the current way Symmetra is, aside from the obvious of using teleporters on certain maps to get extremely good advantages and make sudden pushes, the main usage of Symmetra now is that while her right click is still dodgeable, with the vastly increased speed, slower characters have a real hard time getting out the way. And although the travel time still means at long range you'd think you can't land shots, the large projectile size, combined with a lot of people just not reacting super fast to it because they don't realize how fast the new shots are, means you actually do land a lot of shots with Symmetra's right clicks now. And the main thing she's good against is denying sight lines. She's actually an amazing sniper counter, believe it or not. Because if there is an Ashe looking over like an archway, looking down a long stretch of like path with like very little cover, if we're thinking Havana third point, and she's on that like, you know, ramparts of the castle, looking over that long stretch of the payload where there's basically no cover, Symmetra can just kind of sit there spamming right clicks at that little spot she peeks. And yeah, maybe the Ashe might land some shots on the Symmetra, but if the Ashe stays scoped, it only takes 2 shots from the Symmetra to kill the Ashe, and the Ashe only needs 2 shots to kill you, in turn. So you're both on pretty even footing, so you can kind of scare the Ashe off, which means the Ashe has to stop peeking and find a new angle to attack from, which severely reduces her effectiveness. If she decides to keep trying to peek from there, she's constantly going to be denied by you just firing shots in her direction. Seriously, I've had a game recently on Blizzard World where I was against an Ashe and a Widow that was shitting on her entire team, and I was the only one who was doing really, really well, because, seriously, the scoping time does a lot more than you think. The time it takes to scope out your weapon before you get out of the way, there were times where these guys were on the other fucking side of the map and I still killed them and they weren't able to kill me, just because it took them too long when they saw the shots coming their way for them to drop their scope and start moving. And so what would happen is, they would start moving out the way, but the projectile would just be so big it still clips them and does 100 damage. And if I can just land 2 of them, dead. There we go. And it works, and no damage fall off as well, so it works really well at denying sightlines for snipers. And if they get a little bit too close, sometimes you can just suddenly TP onto the high ground where the snipers are, even if they're far away, and just go, oh, hello there, beam. So anyway, sorry, I just wanted to say, the Symmetra rework's really good. And it's technically not what's on screen right here, but it relates to it. They made the change because they think, oh, Symmetra's good at range now, she doesn't need that extra 25 HP. Now, I don't like characters having 225 HP when they don't need it, so I'm mixed on this change. Because I want to say, yeah, that's fair. Symmetra does work at long range now. You know, Symmetra does, you know, have a lot more utility. Her right clicks are now used far more than her left clicks or her turrets, which I like. I think that's fair enough to say. But I just have one concern. Recently, when I've been playing Symmetra, I've been playing her a lot recently, actually. I just felt like playing her recently, and I've enjoyed her. But there's one thing I found really fucking frustrating. If people don't play with you with Symmetra, which if in your average quick play game, even with good players, quote-unquote, they don't. Even if it's just as simple as, okay, I dropped a teleporter right in front of you, you can all see it, you can all easily go through it, it goes behind the enemies, we can easily kill them if you go through the teleporter, I'm going to go through, can people come with me, or at the very least push in at the same time I go for this flank, and then no one comes with me. And no one pushes in while the entire enemy team is running back to collapse on me, and I usually have to run back into the teleporter and teleport back before I die, and then we get nothing for it, and I'm just like, well, what the fuck, guys? Anyway, because that's the typical experience of playing solo queue Symmetra, especially in quick play, this is the only thing that I'm thinking. I already felt like, in my games, Beam was fucking useless. And don't get me wrong, I'm kind of happy that Beam isn't as important as right-clicks now, but my god, it really felt like I wasn't allowed to make a play on Symmetra. I felt like I was at least glad that I was denying sightlines to the enemy snipers, but it also felt like, holy shit, man, I really just have to hide behind this wall all game, just going, peek shoot, peek shoot, peek shoot, peek shoot, and every shot, they've got time to dodge out the way if they want to. It's just that eventually, if you shoot enough shots, you're going to catch some people. So it doesn't even, like, I am aiming, but, you know, it kind of doesn't even feel like I hit if I aim good. It feels more like I hit if they're stupid, you know? And because it's just like peek shoot, peek shoot, peek shoot constantly, and like you just think, I just want to teleport in there and beam them. But I know if I do that and my team doesn't come with me, which they won't most of the time, I'm going to die. If I already felt like I didn't even have the ability to press W even a little bit with current Symmetra at 225 HP in the current meta, 200 is going to be rough. But in fairness, that's probably a meta problem. Like, the thing is, like, that's the only concern I have here, that like already Beam felt like I couldn't use it ever, and this is going to make that even worse. But in fairness, if it already felt bad at 225 HP, how do you fix that? And I think the answer is terrifying. The answer is 225 isn't enough. I think Symmetra would need something fucking stupid like 300 HP for it to feel like Beam was like something you could get away with solo queue without getting punished for it way too easily. But a 300 HP Symmetra would clearly not be good for the game. So I think ultimately I land on I don't mind this change, but as you can tell, I'm very mixed on it. Widowmaker, I really don't have much to say about this. I was terrified when I saw Widowmaker buffs, but these are reasonable, and they're being given to her since Sombra absolutely shits on Widow and deletes her from the game now, when before she honestly wasn't that good at countering her, despite the fact she was supposed to be a counter to her. Now she's actually really good at it. Okay, here we go, main attraction supports. Oh boy. Okay, how do I even sum this up? Okay, heals have been way too high. Big surprise. Supports have been way too good. Big surprise. We all knew this for ages. Took way too long for the devs to respond. They finally acknowledged it, and even when they acknowledged it, they said, okay, but wait for the mid-season, and then we'll fix it. And here comes the mid-season. What they said in the dev blog before the mid-season patch, when they said, hey, don't worry guys, the mid-season patch will fix anything, a lot of people were cautiously optimistic, but I kind of was worried. And I'll tell you the predictions I had in that video I didn't end up uploading because it was way too fucking long, that I was going to make, based on what the developers were saying before this mid-season patch came out. But they said they were going to do it and they were going to focus on supports. They said, and I quote, well, I say I quote, I paraphrase, I'm going off memory here, but the gist of what they said was essentially, okay, we hear you guys, support is too strong, but we are going to nerf them, but we are a bit worried that we don't want to make them as weak as they were back in the very first beta of Overwatch 2 when they were considered the most neglected role in the game. Because it was very true that while tanks were having an absolute fucking blast, the best time of their lives in the first beta, and DPS were having a pretty good time too, supports were having a miserable time in the first beta. At least that's what people would tell you. In fairness, even I said that supports were having a miserable time in the first beta, and I played in it. But I have some more thoughts on that I'm going to get back to in a moment, that I want to add on to that. I'm not necessarily saying that what I said in the past is 100% wrong, but I do have new perspective on it. Either way, They said something which actually really concerned me, even though it's the kind of thing which in a vacuum sounds reasonable. They said that because they're worried about supports returning to their weaker state, at which point obviously they were way too weak, they wanted to get them in a spot where they have quote-unquote windows of vulnerability. And the second I read that, I went, oh, fuck off. Because I knew what was going to happen. Windows of vulnerability being the words they chose instantly told me, okay, you don't see the problem as being supports simply have too much health, too many buttons they can press, which don't require any kind of skill in aim, positioning, or strategy, that at a press of a button will instantly heal them or instantly save their lives. Those are the main problems. Supports either having health just for existing, instead of having to gain extra health, or having buttons which just give them health or invincibility for pressing them without them having to actually do anything to earn it. In other words, they see supports being able to press buttons and not die, even if someone else did something far more skillful to put them in a situation where they were going to die, and then they get punished just because the support presses a single button, and again, doesn't have to aim, doesn't have to position, doesn't have to strategize, they just press the button and now they don't die. When that is the case, the problem should be identified as, maybe supports should have their mechanics that they use to keep them alive be things that are very skill-based, be things that the supports have to execute on. They should still have tools to keep themselves alive, but they should be things that require good aim, good positioning, good strategy, good movement mechanics, whatever. They should not be things you press a button and get for free. What they took away instead was, supports are being able to be bailed out of death for free at the press of a button too often. Okay guys, don't worry. We're just going to make it so that they still get bailed out of death for free when they press a button without having to do anything that demands any kind of skill. They're just going to be able to do it less often now. So the skill now is going to be pressing the buttons less often and saving them, knowing when to save them, so that you can press them when you need them, guys. It's going to be so much better, guys. Longer cooldowns, guys. Look, they're not always going to have their press button to live buttons, guys, now. Woo! So let me explain why this is fucking shit. Everyone is miserable right now, even support players. Support players may be the ones who have the most power right now, but that doesn't mean support is the most fun. Most of what makes support powerful is their healing numbers and, well, just quite frankly that they're fucking unkillable. But support playmaking abilities? Not actually that great? Don't get me wrong, they're not bad, but they're not great either. Anti-heal is an exception. Anti-heal is of course a great playmaking ability, but it still feels like, as support, although obviously you do have more impact than ever before, it still feels like you don't really dictate the pace of the game a whole lot unless you completely say, fuck it, you know what, I'm not a support anymore. I'm just gonna int into their backline and just fucking hope they die. And you know what, I'm a support, so if it goes south, I can press a button and not die and not get punished for it. I can just throw myself directly into the enemy space with no escape plan, miss all my shots, fuck up in every way, and then press a button and not die for it. So you either play a DPS that just has buttons to live for free, or you play a support. If you play the DPS, you're in control of the game, but you're not playing support, and I play support to play support, damn it. If I want to play DPS, I play DPS. But meanwhile, if you do play support actually as a support, you don't really have a lot of control over the game. You prevent a lot of stuff from happening, but you don't really cause a lot of stuff to happen. And so all you can really do is stop the enemies from having control over the game, but you don't get control over the game yourself, really. So all that's happened now is, no one has control over the game. That's what Overwatch is now. No one has control over the game. No one. Tanks are the ones who are supposed to have control of the game, because the whole thing, the whole skill of tank is, most tanks don't require much aim, obviously exceptions, but most tanks don't require much aim, but the punishment for that is, you require tons of positioning knowledge as tank, and you have to know when to initiate and when to get out, because you are going to be the initiator of most fights in most cases if the team is playing coherently. And so, as a tank, you have to know when to take fights and when not to take them. They should be the ones dictating the pace of the game, but because supports have dumpstered tanks so hard, both because now that support healing is so high, tanks can't get any kills, because most tanks don't have access to burst damage, they have access to AoE damage instead, which leads to slower kills, which means if time to kill is an instant, you'll never kill anyone, because healing's too high. So tanks can't kill anyone because of the supports, but tanks also get disabled by the supports, because the main things that shut down tanks are anti-heals, sleep darts, and I guess technically Suzu's being thrown on enemies that the tanks are going after. I guess that applies to both, but I feel like it's especially bad when you're a tank, when the person you're after gets Suzu'd. Again, because of the longer time to kill on most tanks. So yeah, so tanks are completely out of the game. DPSs are also kind of completely out of the game unless they're bullying the tank. The only way the DPSs can have impact is making the tank's life even more hell than it already is. That's why we have Bastion Mei everywhere right now. Because the only other thing the DPS would be doing is killing other DPS, but the other DPS aren't doing shit because DPS is a cosmetic role at the moment. And the only way that DPS can be impactful is killing supports. That's how DPS is supposed to be an impactful role. Supports are the most impactful role, and I actually think they kind of should be. But the reason they should be is because it gives DPS their impact if they're the main people who have the capabilities to shut down supports. And supports are by default the strongest role. If that's the case, then everything's fine. But here's the thing, DPS can't shut down support right now, because DPS can't kill a single fucking support. Unless you play DPS that are really geared to kill supports, like the reworked Sombra, but even then the reworked Sombra has to go, could you please split apart two supports, please? Pretty please? Hey Brig, could you just move away from your Ana for a second? Pretty please, I want to kill, I've been playing all game, I want one kill. So unless they're stupid enough to just do exactly what you want, even then, you just can't kill supports on DPS. So if you can't kill supports, you can kill DPS sometimes, but why would you want to if DPS aren't doing anything? The only thing DPS can do is kill tanks, or make their lives hell. There we go, we got Bastion Mei. So this is why everyone's miserable right now. Everyone's lost control of the game. DPS don't get to do their job. Instead, all they have control over is bullying the tank, and so they take out all their anger on the tank. The tank has no control over anything. If they make any play, they will explode on the spot for it, and instead, the only thing that tanks get to have control over is waiting for someone else to make a mistake, and then they have full control over the ability to fucking decimate that person for walking one step too far forward. So, technically, tanks still can have enormous power, but only if they stand still and wait for the enemy tank to make a stupid move, and then they take advantage of that and just obliterate them. But if the enemy tank just also stands still, congratulations, you've hit a stalemate. The ultimate move currently as a tank is stand still and hide. And if both of you do that, then it's a stalemate. There's never getting broken. It's just, well, I hope my supports are better than yours. Anyway, I know this is a long tangent. But the point I'm trying to make is... the point I'm trying to make here is no one is in control of the game anymore. We need to have characters take back control. And while obviously DPS and tanks are the ones that need control back the most, and that means nerfing supports, supports also don't have a lot of control. A lot of the things that supports have that are broken right now are things that are so easy to provide, they practically aren't even a decision. Like, here's an example. Lifeweaver is kind of despised after his buffs now, and I despise what they did to him. Even if his buffs made him far better than his launch version, I would take the launch Lifeweaver over current Lifeweaver, because at least the launch Lifeweaver took brain to play. Current Lifeweaver can do smart plays, but it's not necessary. You have so many tools as Lifeweaver to stay alive, even if you play brainless, that you don't need to be a smart Lifeweaver to win on Lifeweaver. You only need to be a heal bot that spams trees, and you'll be a good Lifeweaver. Which is why he's become a brain-dead character, even though technically he still has all the mechanics he did back when he actually took a decent amount of skill to play. So yeah, you could look at a Lifeweaver and say, what do you mean supports need playmaking ability? It's unfair that you have all this stuff already. Lifeweaver's got 225 HP, he's got a dash that instantly gives him 50 health, he's got a 400 health platform which effectively acts as a shield that also gives him free high ground, and on top of that, he's got Tree, which is a broken ultimate. It's just like Rally on steroids. He farms Tree like crazy, his healing's faster than any other character in the game and goes through the fucking roof over the course of a game. How can you be complaining about the state of the game on Lifeweaver? And the answer is, I'm not complaining about his strength. You might list all those things he has, and they are really powerful, but they're not playmaking abilities. I don't count holding left click on people all game as a playmaking ability. Am I making a play as Lifeweaver if I stand on top of the Hollywood building, like, you know, in the second point, all game in one spot going click, 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 click on my tank? Am I making a play? Maybe you could say, well, I mean, you're playing the game, you're doing something, you're interacting, but let's be real, I am not making a play. And that is not fun. It is only fun if I can make plays. So this is what I'm saying. Supports need to lose their free value, but they should keep their playmaking ability. That is my take. I think that simply having 225 HP on Lifeweaver, mistake. As far as I'm concerned, I know this isn't the popular opinion, but as a Lifeweaver connoisseur, as someone who actually had success with him even before the buffs, when most people found him to be garbage, F-tier character, and couldn't do anything with him, as someone who knows what they're fucking doing on Lifeweaver, I will tell you this. I disagree with the notion that Lifeweaver died too easy back when he first came out. I unironically think skill issue. If you thought the old 200 HP Lifeweaver, who had less self-heal on his dash, could not survive being dived, as far as I'm concerned, that's a self-report. You don't know how to play Lifeweaver. If you were already on high ground by the time you got dived, and let's be real, if you're playing Lifeweaver correctly, he's all about positioning, you should be on high ground almost every moment of the game. You don't have an excuse. You have Petal Platform. You can definitely use it. You should already be on high ground when they dive you. You should jump off high ground. You should wait for them to come after you and jump off high ground to come after you. And then you should petal back to high ground and destroy your platform. At which point, yes, they can just chase you again, but they have to wait for their cooldowns. And in the time they wait for their cooldown, support passive kicks in. Oh, hey, look, you're back to full health. They jump on top of you again, you jump back down, you get another petal platform, you get back up there, you're back to full health. You keep up with this long enough, eventually teammates show up and you're saved. It's really not that hard, guys. Or you could just play further back. If you play far back, then they have to burn even more cooldowns just to even get close to you. If you just play far back on high ground as Lifeweaver, you would never die with him, even with a 200 HP version of him, and that is how you're supposed to play him. He is a character who, because he has little to no aim mechanics, he is supposed to live and die on positioning. If you die too often on Lifeweaver, you are positioning yourself awfully. That is my take. I think 225 HP Lifeweaver was a mistake. I think Dash shouldn't even self-heal. I mean that. I don't even think Dash should self-heal. I think it should be a 200 HP character. I think the 50 shield health you could maybe keep. I think that's probably fair, because like the health regeneration is important to his character, because he gets these windows of being able to escape. So I think the shield health you could probably keep, but the 225 HP has got to go back down to 200. I think his petal platform, you need to reduce the cooldown, but reduce the health of the platform as well, because 400 HP is way too much fucking shield health. I mean, I know it's not literally a shield, but let's be real, petal platform is kind of a shield. And 400 health is a lot of health for a shield. But obviously, I also think that 12 seconds is a bit long in between petal platforms, especially because this character makes plays with petal platforms and life grip, and they've both got very long cooldowns. Like, you know, it's no wonder that Lifeweaver feels very, like, separate from the game and not very interactive when their two playmaking abilities are the longest cooldown abilities in the game. You get the idea. I'm ranting a lot about Lifeweaver right now. I'm very passionate about Lifeweaver. You get what I'm trying to get across. Lifeweaver is just a good example, because Lifeweaver is an example of how you can ruin a character by buffing them in a weird way. They've ruined Lifeweaver by buffing him, because even though he did need buffs, the way they buffed him made him all free value and diminished the skill it took to play him. Old Lifeweaver needed precise and perfect positioning at all times, and not just for yourself, but you needed to use your abilities to make plays to improve your teammates' positioning as well. You were having to not only perfectly position yourself, but perfectly position your teammates and use your abilities to edit their positioning for them. That is supposed to be who Lifeweaver is. And yet, who's Lifeweaver now? Mercy 2, let's be real. Now, Lifeweaver healbot's better than Mercy and just has way better healing output. And so, as a result, well, this is what you get. Lifeweaver just simply gets stupidly high healing numbers, and his whole gimmick is he doesn't die, and when he gets his ult, everyone doesn't die. And his ult charges really fucking fast. So, there you go. Fun. I say this, again, as someone who still loves Lifeweaver, but like that's just because I love Petal Platform. And the main thing that I love more than anything else in Overwatch is support positioning mechanics. Like, I love the mind games of support positioning. which is why I fucking hate Kiriko, which is another story for another time. Kiriko is the only support in the game that literally does not have to obey any of the rules of support positioning, and I think it ruins the game. But either way, game. That's why I love Lifeweaver so much, despite the fact that I acknowledge he's in such a shitty state right now. Anyway, so Lifeweaver is just a good example of, wouldn't you rather have a Lifeweaver that can do more, but is more prone to dying? I would like that, and I'm sure that even as a tank player, if you don't even play any support, and you think, fuck, I hate when Lifeweaver life grips away the person I was about to dive, I'm sure you would love Lifeweaver to die easier, even if it meant he could make more plays. I'm sure you wouldn't mind that. That's what I would like to see. So, let's apply this to the situation. Ana getting a 2-second reduction on Biotic Grenade. This scares me, honestly. Listen, Ana, I'm going to say two things that sound contradictory, but there is a good reason why. Ana, I agree, is currently probably the single most overpowered character in the game. Ana is the best character in the game right now. No contest. I don't think anyone even comes close to the power level of Ana right now. Like, there are more annoying characters like Bastion, but, like, Bastion can be shut down. If Bastion doesn't get a whole bunch of resources from his supports, doesn't get good positioning, and you just don't peek the Bastion whenever he uses turret form, and if you bait his cooldowns a lot, you can ruin his day. And don't get me wrong, that's not an instant solution, because obviously this requires you to invest a lot of attention and effort into it, and there's 5 people in a game, you know, you can't invest all your attention on one person. But still, there's counterplay. Ana is the strongest character in the game because healing is the strongest thing in the game. And Biotic Grenade is the only ability in the game that can turn it off. I do not fucking count Rampage, Junker Queen's ultimate, because it's one of the slowest charging ultimates in the game. It's an ultimate, not an ability. And on top of all that, because it's an extremely slow charging ultimate, one Suzu negates your entire fucking ultimate that you spent half the game charging up. Meanwhile, Ana, while she can have her anti-nades negated by Suzu, her nades come off cooldown faster than Suzu. So, you know, I think it's real, you know, it's actual anti-heal, like it actually affects the game. Anyway, being the only real character with anti-heal out of a roster of nearly 40 fucking characters is a crime. You know, my opinion is everyone should have partial anti-heal mechanics. Basically everyone. I think full anti-heal you could keep to just Ana if you wanted to. Like 100% anti-heal, you keep that just to Ana. But like 50% reduced healing when you get hit with whatever ability should be like a common mechanic that like half the fucking roster has. I'm sorry. Like, that should just be how it is. But it's not, unfortunately. And because as a result, because healing is stupidly high, Biotic Grenade is the most broken ability in the game, and Ana is crazy good. It's not because Ana is an overpowered character. I would even go as far as to say I don't even know if Ana has ever been overpowered at any time recently. Ana is only too strong when the meta is in a place it should never be allowed to be in the first place. Ana is only too strong if healing goes through the roof and Biotic Grenade becomes a must pick. And at that point, that's not Ana being overpowered, that's the meta being fucking stupid and Ana being the only way out. So this is why I don't like them nerfing Ana. The thing is as well, I don't even like the way they nerfed Ana, because like, don't get me wrong, okay, they nerfed Ana, I don't think they needed to. Whatever. I will admit, for the time being, Ana is the most broken character in the game, and it's probably not going to change at the snap of a finger. So if we are going to nerf Ana, just so that things are better for now, what are we going to do? If I had the choice, I think there's only one nerf you could really do that's sensible. And it's weirdly specific, but I trust me, there is a very, very good reason why. I think she should not be able to apply her 50% heal boost to herself. She should be able to nade herself to heal herself, but the 50% heal boost only works on allies, not herself. The reason I say this is because the heal boost, I think, sneakily does way more than you think it does when you nade yourself. Now the support passive exists. If you didn't know, the health regeneration for the support passive gets boosted by the heal boost. Now that on its own would already be a little bit concerning, but you'd say, it's not a big deal though, right? But then consider this. Ana Brig is usually what Ana likes to be run with. Brig is like the best support in the game to pair with Ana. Because Ana provides enormous value and the only downside is vulnerability. And so if she has a Brig bodyguard, that basically shuts down her only weakness. But here's the thing. Brig, usually, one of her weaknesses is she doesn't really have burst heal. When she throws a heal pack at someone, it does provide 10 instant healing, but then beyond that, it only heals 55 HP per second for 2 seconds. About the same healing speed as a Mercy Beam, and while Mercy might get a lot of healing in total, I'm sure you're aware Mercy doesn't burst heal very fast. Other supports heal faster than 55 per second when they want to burst heal for the most part. Whereas Brigitte mostly just gets 55 HP per second. And because of that, one of Brigitte's weaknesses can be, when she's trying to save someone's life by throwing heal packs at them, often she can buy them time, but if they have enough people collapsing on top of them, or if they take enough burst damage, the heal is just too slow to save them. And so, you would think that Brigitte wouldn't be too broken with Ana. But when you stack that with Inspire, and then you stack that with the heal boost from Ana nading herself, when you jump on an Ana, it's like, okay, 200 health, okay, you did some damage, she nades herself, heals 60, okay, now 260 effective health, then Brig throws a heal pack at her, which is going to add up if you take even just 2 seconds to kill her from the full health she's now back to. That's now going to add up to an effective HP of 380, except it's not 380 because factor in the 50% boost, and now actually it's 460. Then you take into account Inspire if the Brigitte might use Whip Shot to knock you away from the Ana and buy the Ana some time, and the Inspire healing starts kicking in. I don't remember for sure, but I think Inspire healing is 45 a second, 40 a second. So, if 50% boost, about 60. Let's just, for the sake of simplicity, let's just call it, with the heal boost, that's another 70 healing per second. And that's 530 health, effectively. No, 530 and over 2 seconds, because we're saying 2 seconds is the time frame. So, actually, it would be 600 health, effectively, on the Ana. And then you also factor in the fact that if 2 seconds have passed, now the support passive starts. And let's say, oh, I know you can interrupt the support passive if you shoot her, but if you've just been booped away by Whip Shot, you probably won't get the shot on her. And so that means that by the time the support passive's kicked in, she gets an effective HP of, literally 600. And then after the support passive, she's getting another, what? Is the support... I've forgotten it changed. Is the support passive 15 HP per second with 50% boost? That's 22.5. So, for every second that passes, she's getting an extra 22.5 HP beyond the already 600 effective HP she has. That's fucking insane. Now, take away the heal boost. Okay, she still needs herself, 260 effective HP. Then she gets a heal pack thrown at her, which is still, don't get me wrong, it's a lot, it's 380. And then Inspire, which if you had 2 seconds of Inspire, that would be, about 460 HP, effective HP. Don't get me wrong, still a lot. But in fairness, this is if two supports are next to each other and they're both using cooldowns. The difference between 460 and 600 is quite a sizable one. And that difference was made by taking out the 50% heal boost. So I think you can see my point now. I think the 50% heal boost is sneaky, but does way more than you think. Think about it. Ana Illari, if they stick together, and the Ana is just standing near a healing pylon, even if they don't have their Illari with them, even just being near a healing pylon, it's like, okay, so I'm next to a healing pylon, I throw a nade on myself, I get an instant 60 health, 260 effective health, and then the healing pylon, I think it's 35 healing per second right now, boost by 50%, and now it's closer to nearly 60 healing per second, meaning that now Ana effectively has their own personal mercy beam on them just by standing near a healing pylon while having the heal boost. That's kind of scary, isn't it? You can see what I'm saying. I think the self-heal boost is way stronger than it seems. I think it goes under the radar because the anti-heal is clearly the stronger option, and its heal boost is mostly used on tanks, but you don't realize how much extra self-heal Ana gets off of that. So if they were going to nerf Ana, the smart nerf would be she cannot apply heal boost to herself, but she can still heal the 60 flat health to herself. I know I spent a while on that, but I feel like I have to thoroughly explain that, because I feel like no one talks about this, but I actually am convinced now, the more I've looked into it, that I really think the 50% heal boost is the problem here. I think that's why Ana feels unkillable, because if anything, I feel like Ana felt very frail in Overwatch 1 without an off-tank to protect her, and yet Overwatch 1 Ana healed more with her nade. When self-nading yourself as Ana in Overwatch 1, for 1, your nade was on an 8-second cooldown instead of a 12-second one, and for 2, your nade healed 100 health, literally nearly double the amount. Her effective HP was 300, and she gained another 100 every 8 seconds before, and yet somehow in Overwatch 2 she seems more survivable, and I think that's simply because other supports healing tools have become more convenient and more powerful, and when you combine that with the heal boost and the fact that supports are more encouraged to stick together in Overwatch 2 since they don't have an off tank to protect them anymore, so now they have to protect themselves by heal chaining themselves, it leads to Ana getting way too much benefit from these heal chains where both supports just kind of pump heals into each other and both become invincible. Okay, I know that's a lot to say, I'm closing it out now. The bio grenade, the reason I'm not a big fan of this cooldown nerf is because You know how I said we need to nerf the survivability of supports, but not nerf the capabilities of them, the playmaking potential of them. They're taking away more playmaking potential from Ana here. Because, in effect, does this really stop Ana from, like, surviving? Like, be real with me here. Does it? Like, you might say yes at first, because she's not going to have nade as much. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure she'll survive less often. But don't you think the smart play will then be just to hold nade until you get dived? Which then, doesn't that effectively just mean that instead of the Ana being able to play the game, but unfortunately other people can't play the game because she's getting heal pumped into her, that now no one gets to play the game? The Ana doesn't get to make a play because if they do, they'll die, and you don't get to make a play because the Ana refuses to make a play, because if they do, they'll die. You see why I think this is a bad change? Like, I want support nerfs, but I don't know if this is it, man, you know? I mean, I've already said what I would do. You already know what it is. I'll just say this. Ana, this is just to drive home the point, because I know I already said that Ana, even though I think she's the strongest character in the game right now, it's a problem with the meta, not her. That might not have been too convincing, especially if you're a newer player and you're not as familiar with, like, the fact that Ana has been a widely beloved character that has basically, as far as I'm aware, basically never been hated in all of Overwatch history. This is like the first time I've actually seen hate for Ana existing. I've never heard people ever say Ana's a bullshit character. And a lot of the more OG, more experienced, more skilled players will tell you, if anyone who says Ana's an unfair character has no fucking idea what they're talking about. Because at the end of the day, Ana is one of the most well-designed supports in this game. What might help you convince you a bit is that, despite everything, Ana has received almost nothing but nerf after nerf after nerf in Overwatch 2. And yet she's become better every single passing day in Overwatch 2. I don't think that's people getting better at Ana. People have already had 7 years to get better at Ana. I don't think that's people just suddenly getting a massive skill increase in Ana. I mean, obviously, people probably still getting incrementally better, but not in any significant way. I think the reason that Ana has gotten better and better and better, despite the fact she has received nothing but nerf after nerf after nerf in Overwatch 2. Ana in Overwatch 1 healed 100 health with her Bionade, could charge Nano Boost every fucking minute if she was allowed to heal bot long enough. Her Bionade was on an 8-second cooldown, her Sleep Dart was on a 12-second cooldown, and if I remember correctly, her anti-heal lasted 5 seconds. It currently only lasts 3. Literally, anti-heal used to last about twice as long on a cooldown that was 33% shorter than it is right now. And yet that version of Ana, while certainly playable, was not the meta at the end of Overwatch 1. The meta was Zen Brig. Meanwhile, moving into Overwatch 2, Ana lost a shit ton. This is just off the top of my head, and I'm probably missing a lot too. But for one, the time it took to charge her ultimate practically fucking doubled, especially, that was mostly due to the global nerf to healing gain, ult charge gained from healing. To all supports, but I think it hit Ana harder than any other support in the game, because I feel like she the most benefited from getting ult charge from heal botting, because you could get so much healing whenever you needed to like burst loads of healing into a tank as Ana. And of course your ult was very valuable, so you wanted to farm ult by heal botting, so, you know. I think she was hit the hardest by that change, so that's the first thing. They severely reduced her ammo count, like, twice, I think. She used to have way more. I think she used to have more than 20 shots in a clip, and now she's down to, what is it, 12? Is it 12 or 15? I don't even remember now. It's a lot less than it used to be. Her Sleep Dart went from 12-second cooldown to 16 seconds, I think. Obviously, Bionade went from 8 to 12-second cooldown. Anti-heal went from 5 to 4 to 3 seconds duration, I believe, if I remember correctly. Anti-nades used to deal 100 damage on impact, and now they deal 60, I think, to match the healing, which also got reduced to 60 because it used to be 100. Man, Ana just got so many nerfs. And the only buff I think she's gotten in all of Overwatch 2, the only buff she's gotten, to my memory, is they slightly increased the size of her unscoped shots. Which is, don't get me wrong, I think that's a good quality of life change, but that's all it is, a quality of life change. Effectively, it does not make the character stronger, because the shots being larger does mean you land your shots more often, but if you didn't know, if you fire unscoped shots with Ana, the shots are projectile, and they take time to reach the target. And if you fire scoped shots, they're hit scan, and they don't take any time to reach the target, so you just click and it hits. As a result, it's basically always good practice as Ana to almost at all times, no matter what, just scope in before you shoot. Because then if you click on someone, it will hit. Whereas with projectile, it's like click on someone, maybe it'll hit, maybe they'll move out of the way. There was almost no situation in which it was better to use the non-scoped in version of a rifle in the past. And this is a nice quality of life change. It means if someone is right in your face, and if you try and scope in, they're just going to jump over your head or whatever, like a Genji, and you are forced to use your unscoped shots. Now, at least, the unscoped shots don't need to directly hit them. You know, you can be a little bit off, and the size can compensate for it now that they have a larger size, because before their size was literally 0. It was the same as the hit scan shots. That is a nice quality of life, but ultimately it really didn't change Ana a lot. It really did not change her a lot. And alongside that, we got nerf after nerf after nerf after nerf after nerf, and this is just the next one in a line of nerfs. If all that is true, and Ana is still one of the most broken characters in the game, I think I've made my point. I think you can't fix this situation by just going, Ana's the problem, anti-heal shouldn't exist, and then just nuking her time after time after time, and yet she still stays on top. Because as long as heal power creep goes unaddressed, anti-heal is going to be the most important mechanic in this fucking game, and you can't do anything about that. It doesn't matter how much you nerf it. They could nerf it so anti-heal could last 1 fucking second, and I bet you Ana will still be meta if heal power creep goes unaddressed. Okay, I spent a long time on Ana. I guess I play a lot of Ana. I didn't actually expect to spend that long. Baptiste. Immortality field. Health decrease from 150 to 125. Cooldown increase from 23 to 25. I want to say this is good, and it kind of is, but I have a concern. This is a good change. I personally would have put 100 health immortality field, not 125. But sure, whatever. Nitpicking. And the cooldown increase, I wouldn't have even done that. But you know what? Fine. Don't have a problem with it. This is what I do have a problem with. Where the fuck is Regen Burst? Quick history lesson. Regen Burst in Overwatch 1 was not good. In Overwatch 2, it was Giga Buff to fucking hell and back, and has been sneakily OP ever since the start of the game, and I've been trying to warn you guys. Go back to my... Well, actually, maybe don't, because I know that some of my older videos on Overwatch mixed, you know, some good predictions, but mostly, you know, I was newer to the game at the time, you know. I mean, again, I did play all the way back when it was, like, new on console in 2016 and all that, but, you know, as I mentioned, console and PC were a completely different beast. I basically consider when I started playing PC last year in February as, like, me having to basically relearn the entire fucking game. Because, like, the way that people played so shit on console made it so that, like, I literally had no idea, like, how to play the game, because no one had any idea how to play the game. So even if you did have game sense, it didn't matter. So, like, you know, okay, I'm getting on a tangent here, but the point I'm trying to make is, even all the way back when Overwatch 2 first released, and I was not that experienced with, like, how to properly play Overwatch. I was giving takes with, you know, some of them didn't age that well. I did tell you one thing all the way back then. Even my stupid noob brain could tell you. Baptiste is the most broken fucking character in this game. And he has been ever since the first season. He has. He really has. In terms of flat power level, Baptiste has been the most overpowered character in this fucking game ever since Season 1. And I would try to tell you guys, I told you guys all the way back in Season 1. I told you, he's fucking insane. I told you he was overpowered. I told you he was the best support in the game. And yet, no one listened. Okay, I say that. A few people listened. Mostly, well, I say not listened to me, but just picked up on the same thing I was saying. Obviously, I'm not saying that people watch my video and like, oh, you're right. But, you know, a few people noticed, oh shit, Bap's actually kind of crazy. It's just that he's not been meta, and the second he's going to be meta, he's going to break the game wide open. That's exactly what happened. Anyway, but I was raising the alarm bells about this ever since Season 1, ever since the launch of the game. Hell, I was even... actually, I don't think I was explicitly raising the alarm bells, but I kind of saw this was going in a bad direction, even in the second beta. So, yeah. So, Regen Burst. Sorry, I was supposed to be talking about Regen... I know, that was a long tangent. Regen Burst. I was supposed to be talking about Regen Burst. Oh my god. For those of you who haven't played Overwatch 1, Regen Burst was shit. Like, okay, I barely played any Baptiste in Overwatch 1. I didn't like him as a character. I like him a bit more now, but he's still not my favourite support. I didn't like him as a character, and I especially didn't like him when I first came to PC, and so, you know, I obviously didn't play him that much. But Regen Burst, if I remember correctly, used to work like this. In Overwatch 1, Regen Burst, you would press the button, and it would simply apply a heal over time effect to Baptiste and anyone near him, like it does now. But the difference being, there would be no instant heal, and the healing amount, if I remember correctly, was 100 health over 4 seconds to allies, and 50 health over 4 seconds to Baptiste himself. This button was only 50 self-heal over 4 seconds. it was not a lot. Then Overwatch 2 comes around, and the first beta comes, and they start hitting Baptiste with buffs. Buffs that no one was asking for, not even Baptiste players. They decide, you know what, we're not happy with how well Baptiste is performing right now. Let's make his regen burst better. So they made his regen burst better. They made it so that half of the healing would be instant. The other half would still take time, but that did mean now at the press of the button, you would get half the healing instantly. Combined with the fact that the healing would now be the same on Baptiste and allies, meaning that he would get 50 instant health and 50 health over the next 4 seconds, now suddenly the self-heal of this ability has doubled, and now it's half instant, when before it took 4 seconds. Yikes. Already, after just one buff, this ability suddenly got a lot better, especially for a free value ability where there is literally nothing more to it than pressing the fucking button. And already, just by that existing, Baptiste now has an effective HP of 300. And that's not even counting Immortality Field, with which it's now 450. Damn, a support that has a high healing output, an extremely powerful ultimate, some of the best damage output of any support in the game so long as you have decent aim. All of this in one support that also has an effective HP pool if you use his abilities of 450 HP. This kind of sounds like a character that's doing the job of a DPS, support, and a tank all in one. That kind of sounds like it probably isn't balanced. Well, apparently the Overwatch devs didn't agree, because you want to know what they did next? They buffed him again. After everyone said that the first buff wasn't necessary, they buffed him again. And they decided now, well, actually now, if he's below half health, let's make it so the healing gets doubled. So now, his effective HP isn't 450, it's 550. Friendly reminder, the support passive exists. You know, the health regeneration passive? That means that 550 is lowballing it. 550 is the minimum effective HP of Bap now. Combined with the health regeneration passive, bearing in mind that you will have to stop shooting Bap for a moment to switch targets onto the Immortality Field, and if you try to shoot Bap while he's in the Immortality Field, he will be invincible and the shots that you shoot won't count as dealing damage and thus won't interrupt the support passive. That means, basically, once Baptiste throws down the Immortality Field, it's practically a guarantee he's going to get some health regeneration. Combine that with the damage you'll just generally lose from having to switch targets between Baptiste and the Immortality Field, because that will probably make you have to shoot slower or move into a different spot before continuing shooting, which means that you're going to do less DPS, which effectively leads to more effective HP for Bap. That means a conservative estimate would be 600 effective HP, more like 650 effective HP on average. In the average situation, if you try and kill a Bap and he has regen burst and he has Immortality Field, his effective HP is 650 on a character who out DPSs Cass as a support with a high heal output and an extremely powerful ultimate, who, by the way, we kind of forgot he could grant immortality, didn't we? I love how Bap became so fucking overpowered in Overwatch 2 that Immortality Field went from the most broken thing in the fucking game to the least broken thing about Baptiste. It's kind of hilarious how Regen Burst has kind of become the most broken thing Baptiste has now, and Immortality Field is now the afterthought, rather than the thing that breaks the game like it was back in Overwatch 1. We need to take a step back and realize we went in Overwatch 1 from Baptiste having an effective HP of about 400 if he used both of his abilities, which even then, it was often not quite 400, considering that you wouldn't usually get the full healing from the self-regen burst, considering it took 4 seconds to take full effect. And now we have a Baptiste whose effective HP has gone from 400 to 650. What the fuck? And not to mention, Overwatch 1 Baptiste did less damage too. I'm not kidding. He did less damage back then. His Immortality Field also had a longer cooldown. I think it was 30 seconds in Overwatch 1, and now it's 23 and it just went back to 25. And friendly reminder, Baptiste was still extremely strong and one of the more meta supports at the end of Overwatch 1. A support that was already one of the strongest picks in the game got buffed, and buffed going into Overwatch 2, and literally not a single person said that these buffs were necessary. And everyone looked at these buffs and was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why? So anyway, sorry. Regen Burst has taken a stupid journey of power creep. This ability went from near useless to game breaking. Regen Burst should be what's on the chopping block here. I'm not complaining about the Immortality Field nerf. It needed nerfs too. But my god, is it ignoring the big problem to not be addressing regen burst here. Now, what do I think they should do with regen burst? A lot of people are saying they should remove the double heal if below half health. I want to agree with this, because I agree that doubling the healing was a bad idea. I mean, it's one of those things where it doesn't register in your head at first. Double healing, yeah, sure, whatever, cool benefit. But actually think about this for a second. Imagine if you woke up tomorrow and there was a patch, just a patch notes, and it said, oh, hey, by the way, lol, we just decided that Anna's nade now heals double the amount, so it heals like 200 now and 140 to herself. You'd be like, excuse me, what the fuck? Anna can just 140 heal herself on command now and heal booster? Excuse me, what? What if one day you just came on and it's like, oh, hey, remember Brig heal packs? How they heal 120 health now? They used to heal 110, but it's 120 now. Yeah, how about we make that 240? Can you imagine a world where one Brig heal pack full heals a fucking Reaper? Because that's the world you would be living in if they did that. So now, hopefully that helps put in perspective a little bit why regen burst double healing is actually fucking insane. Double healing, like doubling the healing of ability should basically never happen. You should basically never be like, we need to increase this ability's healing. How about we fucking double it? Oh my god. So yeah, the reason though that I kind of want to defend it is because I have to admit, from a design perspective, don't get me wrong, from a design perspective, if we're being strict, regen burst shouldn't exist in the first place. It is an ability which requires no thought. You press it and it heals. That's it. It doesn't heal more in certain situations or less in certain other situations. It doesn't require you to put yourself in a certain spot to heal. It doesn't require you to press it with good timing to heal. It doesn't require you to land a skill shot. It doesn't require you to do anything, really. You press it and it heals. That's what it does. I always thought that it was a bad ability to add to the game from the very start. But if it's already going to exist and we're going to have to make the best of it, I do think that adding the condition of doing something extra for being below half health is a good change. Because, while it's certainly not a lot, it's certainly still a very brain-dead ability, it's a little bit better than literally just press it whenever, whatever the fuck you want to do. You know, it's a little bit better that at least now you have to use at least maybe 2 brain cells instead of 1 to be like, wait, I gotta wait until I'm 100 health before I press it. Okay, now I'm 100 health or below, now press it. You know, it's a small improvement. So I think if I had the wheel, I would go this far. So regen burst for the longest time was at 200 HP heal. I must admit, I didn't mention yet, they did nerf it in the mid-season of Season 6. They nerfed it down to 160 if doubled, 80 if not doubled. Which, don't get me wrong, is a step in the right direction, but it's still too light a punishment. I think that regen burst really needs to come down. I think regen burst needs to be 60 at its base and 90 if you get the half health. I think it should be a 50% heal boost with a 60 point heal at base. That's what I think. And even with that, you might say, "Oh, that's not enough. I need to stay alive. How am I going to stay alive?" Anna already feels unkillable as she is, and she only heals herself for 60 with nade. You get to heal yourself for 90, and you get Immortality Field, and you get to deal more damage, and you get Exo Boots. Let's stop complaining. So yes, Baptiste, heal burst needs nerfs. These Immortality Field nerfs, while a little bit lenient, I think are actually fine, just not what I want. Okay, we get to stop being negative for a little bit, because these Illari nerfs are actually really good. They're not perfect, but they're as close to perfect that they could realistically get. Because I know they're not going to make the perfect changes. So, I didn't want them to nerf Illari's damage, but I kind of also wanted it so that she wouldn't be so, like, you know, busted at being a DPS. And they found a good way to do that when those two things seem contradictory. They made it so that her projectile size has been halved, which is actually a huge change. It probably doesn't sound like it, but it does. So to explain, the size of her projectile means that, like, even if, like, if you're playing a character with a 0 size projectile, that means that if you, like, you have to directly click someone's head to get a headshot. Whereas if you're playing someone with a projectile that does have a size, even just a small size, you might miss their head by a tiny bit, but because the bullet isn't literally, like, infinitely small, you know, it's not just a dot on the screen, that means that it could scrape the head and still count as a headshot. And so the larger your projectile is, the less accurate you have to be. It's essentially like a little bit of, well, you can miss by a little bit and we'll still count it. And Illari infamously has been a little bit too generous when it comes to that. I mean, I cannot aim for shit in this game, at least considering the skill tier I'm at. I'm very much aware that I compensate for my garbage aim, considering that I'm mostly playing against Masters and Diamond players, with the fact that I think that I have a very strong grasp on game sense and positioning. I know that, and yet Illari is my highest win rate character right now. And I didn't say that at first, I didn't mention anything about that, because I thought it was just, oh, I haven't played enough games with her. But I've actually played a decent amount of games with her now, and it's only gotten higher. Let me show you something. These are my highest win rate characters. You can see Mercy, Winston, Symmetra, good old Ball, Sigma, Echo, Lucio, and then you see the really high ones. Junker Queen. I said in the past that I wasn't sure if I knew how to play Junker Queen. I think I just said that because I feel like I missed too many knives. But I feel like I actually do quite well with Junker Queen now. I've played her a lot more often, just because, you know, even though I do miss a lot with knives, I admit, because aim isn't my strong suit, I think I get away with it just because I have a lot of good game sense with Junker Queen, and a lot of Junker Queens are a bit too W happy. I use Shout to disengage a lot more than I use it to engage, and I only use it to engage if I'm guaranteed a kill, and getting that kill will take all the heat off of me. Anyway, so yeah. Junker Queen's really high. Farah's really high because I don't play her much, which skyrockets the win rate. Also, she's bullshit and unfair and doesn't belong in this game, and fuck her, so... yeah, she's my least played character, but I win a lot on her because she's brainless and she's a free win button. And Illari is my highest win rate character at 67%. And again, before I held off judgment, before I told myself, well, it's probably just because I haven't played many games with her, there was a point in time when some of my lower win rate characters were actually some of my highest, just because, well, I didn't play that many games on them, and I just so happened to win a lot of my first few games on them, so my win rate with them was something stupid like 70% or whatever. But to say that Illari is a character that is mostly based on aim compared to other supports, when I fully self-confess that aim is my weakest suit, Illari being this high a win rate for me is kind of concerning. How many games have I played on Illari? 63, which, don't get me wrong, it's not a crazy amount, we're not in the hundreds yet, but 63 is not a small sample size, and if I have won 42 out of those 63 games, that isn't a good sign. So yeah, Illari did need nerfs, but the thing is, this is a different tune to what I was singing when she first came out. When she first came out, I actually kind of took a bit of a laid-back position, where I thought that Illari was above average, but honestly not even that great, and that people were kind of exaggerating. And I obviously admit I was wrong, but I think I was almost wrong for the right reasons, in that I mostly saw people talking about how insane her damage was, and how crazy her ult was, but I kind of realized that her ult wasn't really going to stay insane. I didn't quite realize just how much it was going to change as people learned how to use it and how to play against it. It obviously is not used anything like it was used when it was first released, but I did realize that it wasn't going to stay as quote-unquote broken as it was on launch. And when I say quote-unquote broken, it wasn't necessarily even because it was broken, it was just because people didn't know how to play around it yet. So people fell for it a lot more. But either way, I knew that was going to happen. But I also knew that her damage wasn't what was OP about her. I mean, her damage was good, but it was more just convenient. It wasn't super bursty, it wasn't super bullshit. Illari really didn't have a lot of, well, bullshit. She was a pretty fair character overall. But there was just that one thing, wasn't there? That one subtle thing that actually ended up being the problem. And I kind of noticed it was a problem, but I had no idea how bad it was going to get. Healing Pylon. Even after the nerfs, Healing Pylon has been a scourge. I want to show you one of the statistic. The main statistics I like to look at on my characters are my win percentages, obviously, but the other one is my deaths per 10 minutes. I actually like looking at this a lot more than my damage or my Elins or my healing, because I think I really click with characters that are good with staying alive if you play them smart. And so, this is where we are. These are my 5 lowest deaths characters. D.Va makes sense. Highest health character in the game if you factor in armor, and even when you kill her, you don't really kill her if you can get her mech back. That makes sense. Wrecking Ball at 3rd also makes sense. Stupidly high health tank with stupidly high mobility only really gets killed if he gets stun locked out of existence or gets hit with the most ludicrous burst damage like a Bap windowed Bastion. Sombra, obviously invisible, teleportation makes sense. Lifeweaver, lowest deaths hero, makes sense. This hero has way too much self-heal, way too much health, way too many escape mechanics. Well, no, the escape mechanics aren't the problem. The escape mechanics in combination with the high health and high self-heal is the problem, but I think that you should just make it so you don't have the high health and high self-heal and just have the escape mechanics. But either way, Lifeweaver, lowest deaths. He was also my lowest deaths even before he got his health buff and his self-heal buff, by the way, which is another big reason why I think he doesn't, like, you know, he shouldn't get the 225 health and the self-heal on Dash. Because when Dash only healed 10 health and he had 200 health with no shield health, I still had less than 4 deaths per 10 minutes on him. Anyway, with all that said, you will see Illari is 4th here, and I think that's terrifying. I am not like an Illari connoisseur. Like, I can play Illari at a basic level, sure. I know what I'm supposed to do, but I can't aim that good, and this character lives and dies on aim. And yet, my deaths per 10 minutes on this character is my 4th lowest out of all of them. Lower than D.Va, a character with an effective HP pool of around 1,000 who also gets a chance to cheat death even after she dies. And a fucking 200 HP support is outperforming her. Illari doesn't have good mobility. She doesn't have good CC. Do you know what keeps her alive? Pylon. Literally, just stand next to Pylon and you don't die. You have to get ganged up on to be killed if your Pylon's there. Or the Pylon has to be destroyed. But because the Pylon had 150 health, you had to do an entire dive just to break the Pylon. Like, Boga, I was watching the Group Up podcast a while ago, and Boga mentioned, like, he's one of the best Winston players out there. He mentioned that he literally has to initiate an entire dive just to break a single fucking healing Pylon and then jump out. And he didn't even mention this, but that got me thinking, damn, well, at least after you break the Pylon, you can jump in again and then kill them once you're healed. And then I'm like, wait, you can't even do that. Because not only is that obviously buying time for other cooldowns to come off, if like the other support maybe didn't have their suit, like if their Kiriko maybe didn't have Suzu ready and by the time they come back they have Suzu. Even worse, even if the other support isn't a factor, and you did a whole dive as Winston just to break a healing Pylon and then run back and get healed, and then go in for a second dive without the healing Pylon. Even then, Winston Leap has a 6-second cooldown. If you break Pylon, leap out, get healed, leap back in, by the time you've done that, you've waited 6 seconds twice, which means 12 seconds at minimum has passed, which means Illari has another turret. Literally, you have to do an entire dive with Winston just to break a single fucking healing Pylon, not even get any kills. And then you get out to get healed, and by the time you get back in, it's already back off cooldown. Even if you're perfect. Yep. This is the thing with Illari. There is no disadvantage state for Illari, essentially, except having no Pylon, but there is no realistic situation in which you can kill Pylon without dying yourself if the Pylon is inside enemy space, in a spot where you do not have LOS to shoot it, unless you put yourself in a spot where you will die. So, I'm obviously not happy about that. This is all important context, because the changes here, besides the smaller thing, is changes to healing Pylon. These are good changes. I'm finally going to have some positivity here. This is a good change. This is the right direction. Healing Pylon cannot have its healing reduced anymore. While its current healing, low as it is enough to make Illari borderline immortal in any 1v1. The thing is, even if you reduced it even lower, I think she would still be borderline immortal. You would have to reduce it to like 10 HP per second to change that fact, and if you did that, then it would never be useful for healing anyone except yourself in a 1v1 ever again. So, they can't do that. They basically, it's just not an option to make a healing Pylon heal any less than it already does. What is an option is making it break easier, and that should have been done from the very beginning. Now, I say this is a step in the right direction. My strong opinion is that healing Pylon should have 50 health. Before you freak out, Sym turrets have 30 health. It's more than a Sym turret, and if you think about it, if you can break a Sym turret with just 30 damage, why can't you break a healing Pylon with 50? Healing Pylon is more dangerous than a Sym turret, and on top of that, healing Pylon can be placed in more safe spots than a Sym turret, so it's more of a misplay for the Illari to be placing them in aggressive spots than for a Sym to be putting her turrets in aggressive spots. But in the Sym's case, the turrets need to be able to see enemies to damage them, so you have to use them aggressively. So then having 30 HP is honestly, if anything, a little bit hard. But in the Illari's case, why does her healing pylon get to have 150 and then 125 HP? Why? Because if you're putting it in a sensible spot, you're putting it somewhere where the enemies can't even see it unless they're already so far forward that your entire team can collapse on them and murder them. And someone's got to break it, and no one wants to do it, just like with Torb turrets. Only with Torb turrets, at least you can usually shoot at them from a distance. Pylons placed cleverly can't even be shot at from a distance. And pylons placed stupidly probably should be getting one shot. In my opinion. You know. So, this is my take. I think healing pylon should have 50 health. And I think that it should be... I think even with 50 health, it would still be strong. Because all you do is you put it somewhere really, really hard to spot. Or really hard to get line of sight of. And so, not only would it be hard to find it, but maybe even if it isn't hard to find, you can put it somewhere where the enemies basically have to put themselves in a death trap to even have line of sight to shoot it. So, at that point, it's kind of doing its job. And that would actually provide some windows of vulnerability, since the devs seem to love that idea, to Illari if her healing pylon wasn't up like 100% of the time. Now don't get me wrong, this nerf isn't exactly what I wanted, but I will say it's closer than I ever thought we'd get, because I knew they wouldn't have the balls to reduce the health of the pylon to 50. But this is like the next best thing. They reduced the health of the pylon to 100, which is still too high in my opinion, but at least is another big breakpoint. That now means a Symmetra right-click can one-shot it, and it now means that Winston right-click can two-shot it, which is still really slow, but it's better than 3 shots. But here's the thing I wasn't even expecting. I didn't even expect they would increase the cooldown when destroyed from 12 to 15 seconds. That is good. That does mean now that, sad as it is that you even have to do this in the first place, if you do that double dive thing with Winston where you do the first dive just to break pylon, get out, get healed, and then do another dive to kill the Illari while pylon is down, you now have a whopping 3-second window to kill the Illari before she gets her pylon back. What a luxury. At least it's better than nothing. Either way. Yes, I think this is the best change out of the support changes. These changes are sensible and smart, although I still think they go a little soft. Kiriko, this change is not a real balance change, this is a cry for help. That sounds like a joke, and I mean, I kind of say it as a joke, but I also fully mean it. Essentially, this reduction or increase of the time it takes to get your Suzu back is them basically throwing their arms up and saying, well, we know Kiriko's bullshit, and we know that no one likes playing against Suzu, and we know that Suzu happens too often, and we know there's no counterplay, and then we know that you all hate it, and we know it has negative impacts on the meta. But, like, it's not changing. That's what this says to me. We don't know what we're doing with this character. And in fairness, I don't even know if I really want to hold it against them. I don't know, because the thing is, again, this needs to be an entire video in its own right, but Kiriko is such a fucking train wreck of a character, the worst character ever added to this game, that have introduced more problems to the game than anyone else. Kiriko has been so detrimental to the health of this game that essentially the only way you can fix her at this point is just fucking hit the reset button, restart with this whole character, and that's not happening, unfortunately. It's not realistic. The best you could do, if you didn't want to hit the reset button, is you could improve her by making it so Suzu doesn't grant invincibility, it only grants heal and cleanse, and making it so Swift Step has a longer cast time, and while it's being cast, like while you're doing the hand motion to do the teleport, but you haven't teleported yet, the enemies get a particle effect indicating you're about to teleport to that location. That, I think, is the best you could do. Those two changes would help a lot, but even still, you would have a character that really disregards a lot of rules of positioning of supports, that gets to bullshit people with lucky kunai headshots, that gets to completely disregard the concept of space as a whole harder than any other character in this entire fucking game, that also just generally is annoying as shit to play against, and kind of not even that fun to play as. But again, this is something that if I really wanted to get deep into, deserves an entire video in its own right, and Jesus Christ, this video is long enough. Lifeweaver. Okay, well, luckily I don't have to spend so long on these changes because I already told you what should happen, but there are some more things I want to tell you. So, I've said that what they need to do with the Lifeweaver is revert his survivability back to launch Lifeweaver. I think that it should be hard to stay alive on Lifeweaver. I think you should need to be smart, think ahead, and have good positioning to stay alive on Lifeweaver. I managed to do it. I had less than 4 deaths per 10 minutes on Lifeweaver, even when he was 200 HP. He didn't have self-heal on his dash, well he did, but it was like 10 self-heal. And his tree didn't give over health, it didn't heal as much. He had far fewer tools for survival back then, and I made it work. I don't like being so smug about this, but the reason I'm doing this is I'm convinced that Lifeweaver is a character that no one understood. I feel like no one got Lifeweaver because he's a character that only lives and dies on positioning, and a lot of people are more into the shooter aspect of the game. And they don't see, it's hard to see the positioning and see the direct results of the positioning, so they don't understand that good positioning equals Lifeweaver never dying, even if he only has 200 HP and barely any self-heal. Now, beyond that, obviously just reverting Lifeweaver to his launch state, I think would be an improvement, but I don't think it would be, you know, the solution. Launch Lifeweaver still has problems. I think they shouldn't revert his Thorns. I think his Thorns are kind of a mess in their own right. I'm almost tempted to do an entire video talking about how I want Lifeweaver to be perfectly what I would do with Thorns, because I think Thorns is, ironically, as little as it's talked about, I think Thorns is the biggest reason why Lifeweaver feels clunky, because at the end of the day, he's supposed to be a hero who plays far back and high up, and that's how he stays alive, and that's how he becomes the most unkillable support in the game. But then they gave him a weapon which is only good up close, and it's like, why did you do that? Why did you give me a weapon that's actually got really good DPS, but it moves so slow and spreads so much that I have to use it at point blank range, when the whole point of this character is to use high ground and use distance to be effective? If I don't use distance, my life grips won't pull people out of danger, and if I don't use high ground, I will die. So I have to play far back and on high ground, which means my primary fire is useless if I play this character coherently, and useful if I play him stupidly. Why? Okay, sorry, side tangent. But I think that's. I think that Lifeweaver would be actually amazing, like if they just fix his primary fire. But I don't think it's going to happen. And in fairness, I say fix his primary fire. I don't think it's that bad, especially now that it doesn't spread very much. I think it's serviceable, but I definitely think it's not ideal. Either way, the nerfs are, they reduced his ammo from 20 to 16 on his healing, and they made his max heal 70, not 75, and they added 3 seconds to life grips cooldown. Okay, Okay, here are my suggestions. I have strong opinions on what to do with Lifeweaver heal. A lot of people think Lifeweaver heal is just screwed from the start. They think a charge up heal doesn't work in this game because you don't have that instant heal on demand. If you do have it just charged up ready, then that means that you move slower, which is obviously you can't just hold that forever. I kind of bought into this at first because it does feel a bit weird, but honestly, after having played Lifeweaver for a long time, I think I disagree now, actually. I think charge heal can work, you just have to pre-charge, you just have to think ahead. I think Lifeweaver is a character all about thinking ahead. I think playing Lifeweaver actively in the moment is simple, and so the reason the way they the way they tried to compensate for that, and the way that they need to keep compensating for that, but over time we've lost this, is that Lifeweaver needs to always think ahead. You can never just see what happens and then press the button. You can't do that with Lifeweaver. And if you can, then I think Lifeweaver's in a bad state, which is, kind of how he is right now. It should be that, whenever you do something as Lifeweaver, you have to have already known that things were going to happen the way they did, because you can predict things that much, because you're thinking that many steps ahead. And then you use your abilities to counteract what you know is about to happen. And so, you might put yourself on high ground, you might technically not be able to see anyone right now, but you're like, okay, well, I can see my teammates are far up, I can see the enemies are pushing in, I know that it's been long enough that they should have ults by now, and none of them are using any ults, they're probably about to use ults, I'm going to charge up my heal fully, because even though it's going to reduce my movement speed, so I can't run forward to heal my teammates are probably about to retreat, because my enemies are probably about to push in, and they're probably going to have to run back to me for healing, and then the second they run back, I've got a full heal ready for them. Stuff like that. Here's the thing, the reason why Lifeweaver's heal sucks, but also is overpowered, which sounds like an oxymoron, is because it doesn't, it's way too much healing, but given in the most inconvenient way possible. It's awkward to burst heal unless you think ahead, but again, I actually don't think that's a problem, but we'll get back to that. It also doesn't really provide healing fast, but it provides it often. It's kind of like Mercy. Mercy gets the most healing in a game usually, but if you actually pay attention, it's a lot easier to kill someone being healed by Mercy Beam than someone being pumped full of Ana darts. Because Ana heals faster than Mercy. Factually, she does. In fact, most supports heal faster than Mercy. Literally, even Brig heals faster than Mercy. No joke, she does. Brig heal packs literally heal at the same speed of Mercy, except they also give a 10 health instantly on hit, and also you can add Inspire on top of that. So Brig heals faster than Mercy does. Mercy heals slower than most characters in the game. Her heal's pathetic, but she still gets the most healing most games because her heal beam doesn't need to reload, is really easy to use, and so you can just kind of hold left click and you're always healing. And even if you're not healing very fast, you're always healing, so it adds up over time. Lifeweaver is the same. He doesn't heal fast, and he doesn't really heal in convenient ways, but he's always healing, and I actually don't think that's a good thing. That's what's so frustrating about Lifeweaver. He's always healing. If he can't heal a lot, then he's useless, because all he does is heal. His primary fire is useless because they gave him a primary fire of someone who should be a flanker when he's literally the opposite of a flanker. Again, really weird decision. No idea why they did that. That's literally the only thing they did wrong when they designed Lifeweaver, in my opinion. Like, the original design of Lifeweaver, the only thing they fucked up was the thorns. I think everything else was, like, nearly perfect. So you have to heal, but that means your healing has to be good if you have to heal bot with this character. But for your healing to be good, you have to heal good amounts. But if you heal good amounts, but you also never have gaps in your healing, oh god, no one can die now, can they? Because you are always there, you're practically unkillable, you basically never have to reload, you constantly have healing all the time, there's never a time you can't heal people, except when you can't see them, but, I mean, if you can't see them, like half the time you can just solve that with a dash or a petal platform, if it really needs to be done, and the only time that you might get fucked is if someone hits low enough health that you can't heal them fast enough because your heal isn't super fast, and then you just press life grip, and there you go. So, yeah. I think what they need to do to Lifeweaver isn't actually necessarily reduce his healing, but reduce the way he heals. He should have burst heals that are really convenient and really good for saving people's lives, but they should be really low uptime. What I'm suggesting is, I think that Lifeweaver's reload time should be doubled, and I think his ammo shouldn't be reduced from 20 to 16. I think it should be reduced from 20 to 5. I am not kidding. But hear this, I think they should also increase the max heal to 100, or maybe even more than that. Think about it. Now, Lifeweaver has downtime on his heal. Now, Lifeweaver also actually can burst heal, which means he can actually save people's lives a lot more often and provide healing in much more convenient ways. Now, Lifeweavers are rewarded more heavily for starting to charge their heal before it was even needed because they predicted it was about to be needed, and then they have that 100 health heal ready to go the second it happens. But Lifeweaver doesn't come a pain in the ass that makes everyone immortal, because when he has to reload, which he will have to do often if he's only got 5 shots, he's going to spend a while reloading that heal. In the meantime, he can be swapping to his thorns and firing them since his heal auto-reloads while he uses his thorns, and vice versa. And so, it would all fit together very nicely. Especially because one of the few things about Lifeweaver that I think is very underutilized is, I think it's a shame that charging up heal is used because it heals faster than spamming. I think it should actually be that spam healing with the minimum healing should be faster than healing with charge, but the downside of doing it is that you waste ammo. But because you get 20 fucking ammo, it's not really a real downside. Like, when do you want to spam the minimum heal on Lifeweaver? The only time I do it is if I see someone critical health as Lifeweaver, I do almost always one tap of a non-charged heal, just to give them an instant 15 health, and then charge up the next one. That's usually what I do. Other than that, uncharged heals are useless with Lifeweaver in its current state. But it would be really, really interesting if they made his minimum heal way higher, maybe 25 or something, so spam heal was actually faster than charge heal, but doing it just made you lose all your ammo almost instantly, and then you had the long reload. That would be perfect. Then, see how much more engaging Lifeweaver has become without even like adding any new mechanics. Literally, we didn't even change his heal. We just made it so we changed the numbers, we changed the maximum heal, we changed the minimum heal, and we changed the ammo capacity and reload time. Change those things, and suddenly Lifeweaver takes more skill to actually heal people because you actually have to strategize how to use your healing rather than heal botting. You also have to think ahead constantly to get the most out of his healing. You also have to constantly micromanage when you're going to be reloading, and the downtime creates those ever-coveted windows of vulnerability for other supports, because those other supports aren't always going to be able to get Lifeweaver heals if they just so happen to decide to come running to their Lifeweaver when their Lifeweaver is busy reloading. So yeah, I think Lifeweaver having loads of ammo was a stupid fucking idea. 12 on launch was already too much. 20 was fucking stupid. Why does he have this much ammo? What is the point of ammo management on a character that has this much ammo on a short reload? When do you sit there on Lifeweaver and shoot 20 uninterrupted heals in a row? I say that, in fairness, I've done it once or twice in my recent games, but once or twice isn't very often, and in fact, I don't think I should be allowed to sit there interrupted on the most unkillable character in the game, just spamming heals non-stop 20 times for like a full minute. Anyway, so this is my thoughts on these changes. I like that they're reducing the ammo, but this is nowhere near enough. It's basically just not going to matter at all. The max heal reduction, I think, is technically good, but it's gonna feel bad. Again, this isn't the way I'd go about it. The heal just needs serious changes. The way the heal is now just feels awful, and I've already said how I would fix it. I do think this is better, but it's not what I want to see still. The life grip nerf, I have opinions on. Okay. As a Lifeweaver connoisseur, I might be biased here. Again, technically I have more playtime in other supports, but that's probably just because Lifeweaver's so new. I'm really trying to think. Am I being too biased here? But I really think this is true. In an ideal world, and I know this isn't happening, Immortality Field wouldn't exist. Suzu wouldn't exist. But I think Life Grip is the only press a button to instantly save someone's life kind of mechanic in this game that I think is okay. Immortality Field is, oh, you're gonna die, drop. Suzu is, oh, you're gonna die, drop. Life Grip is, oh, you're gonna die, hang on a minute, I need to be positioned in the correct position to pull you out of danger, and you also need to maintain line of sight with me, and you also need to not leave the distance for which my Life Grip no longer works, and I also have to make sure that you also have enough time to get healed after you get Life Gripped, so you don't die the second the Life Grip ends, because you only get 50 heal from the Life Grip, which isn't a lot, and if you're already critical, you might die on the spot. So yeah, I think Life Grip is a lot cooler than the other life save mechanics. I think it's a lot more unique. I think there's a lot more thought that goes into it. I think it's a lot less brain dead, although I do acknowledge there are brain dead uses of it. But the best uses of it are actually very, very smart. But the thing is, I admit right now, the most utility you get is not even from, like, you know, using it smartly, and I have been disconnected for inactivity. I deserve that. The most, like, use you get out of it isn't even for smart usage of it. The most use you get out of it is just, oh, that you're critical, bonk. You know, that's the most use you get out of it right now, just like pressing it to save someone who's critical, which is not the best. But okay, increasing the cooldown, I keep saying reducing, from 16 to 19, I have mixed feelings on. Most people are happy about it, and I see why. But like, this is the thing, Lifeweaver needs to be able to make plays, and not just heal bot. Ideally, that would come in the form of him having a serviceable primary fire for his purpose, but once again, they give him a primary fire, which would have been really cool on almost any other character, but is useless on him, which is a shame. And that means that the only way he can make plays is through his abilities. And even then, not dash. So that means platform and life grip are the only playmaking tools that Lifeweaver has. If that's going to be the case, then I want Life Grip to be good. I'm sorry. I know Life Grip is annoying when it happens to you, but if we live in a world where Immortality Field is removed from the game, Suzu is removed from the game, but Life Grip stays, I think that's the perfect world. I think that a life save mechanic is an idea that it is a good idea for at least one support in the game to be able to do that. And considering Lifeweaver is desperately struggling to find his niche, and the only time Lifeweaver has been good so far is when they just crank all his numbers up to stupid amounts and make him just, give infinite health by existing the character, which clearly isn't healthy. I think the healthy way to have Lifeweaver work in this game is have him be the only support in the game with a life save mechanic like Life Grip. I think it should be a special utility only he has. And I also think that Life Grip, as I say, is already the coolest, most fun, most skill testing of the three bullshit life-saving mechanics. And since it's the only thing you can use to make serious plays, I would actually propose buffs to it. I would propose it goes to a 14-second cooldown. Seriously, I know that people probably aren't going to like this. I would propose that it gets near infinite range. Not quite infinite, maybe 50 meters. I would say infinite range because, like, you need line of sight. Like, I know this is probably unpopular, but, like, seriously, the amount of times it's like, okay, my tank is overextending, I'm about to pull them out, but then I'm on high ground, and of course they're like 2 centimeters too far forward for the life grip to reach unless I jump off high ground and I pull them back. And don't get me wrong, 9 times out of 10 it doesn't matter. I pull them back and then I just use a petal platform and get back on high ground. But like, every now and then, I jump off high ground, I pull my tank back, and then I get fucking jumped on and mauled the second I leave high ground, and I don't get a chance to get back to it. And I think to myself, oh my fucking god. If one, my tank wasn't so stupid to int into the front line like that and just have no plan and just get himself killed and without my help. And on top of that, if my life grip could just go 1 centimeter, 1 inch further, then I wouldn't have died. And it doesn't feel like I made a mistake really in that situation. Because what am I supposed to do? Just watch my tank die? Maybe, but I don't even know for sure if I'm going to die when I jump down. It might happen, it might not. Whereas I know for sure that tank is dead if I don't jump down. So it kind of just feels like a eat shit, fuck you situation. And it's kind of like, well, come on, I can see him, I can heal him, why can't I life grip him? Now, the only reason I would say infinite range is off limits, and literally, no joke, this is the only reason. I actually thought infinite range would probably be fine, but then I had one realization which changed my mind, and that is flying characters. Line of sight would usually make it so that infinite range life grips wouldn't be that bad because like it would be hard to get very long range life grips because of line of sight being needed. And if you did have line of sight, it would probably be a big brain play where you have like a perfect little opening where you can see a long distance. The one exception being, if you've got a Pharah on your team who just flies all the way into the fucking enemy spawn and starts spawn camping them, and then they get in trouble, and you're just chilling on a building as Lifeweaver, you could pull that Pharah onto the other side of the map at a moment's notice, which is clearly bullshit. That's the only reason I even think a range limit at all is necessary. Basically just for flying characters. For the most part, I think line of sight is the only limitation that's necessary. So yeah. With all that said, that is what I think should happen to Lifeweaver. I think his life grip should either have its cooldown reduced to like 14 seconds, or I think that its range should be 50 meters. And I know that's not going to be a popular opinion, as I say. But I think in an ideal world, this would come alongside Suzu losing its invincibility gains and just getting a cleanse. And Immortality Field, honestly, being fucking removed from the game, but that's probably not happening. I don't know, maybe just make it have be really ineffective, like really low health, whatever. To the point where, as I say, Lifeweaver is picked not because, oh, he just doesn't die, or not because, oh, Tree is just a dumb ultimate and it's really easy to charge, or not because, oh, this character's easy, but Lifeweaver is picked because it's like, we are picking a comp where a lifesaver support, quote-unquote, is really, really helpful, and Lifeweaver is the only support left in the game with an ability that's just press the button and I save your life. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention Petal Platform. This is a small one, it's kind of a bit off on a tangent, but I also strongly think this. I don't like the way that they distributed Petal Platform stats. I think the power level of the ability as a whole is fine, but they should reshuffle some things. What I'm talking about is, I think the cooldown on it is a little bit too long at 12 seconds, but I also think the health of it is way too high. Like, why the fuck does Petal Platform have 400 health? Why is it like a mini tank of its own right? Like, put it in this way. This is half the reason Lifeweaver is so unkillable. Even if you have no high ground to escape to, unless the opponents get a wide angle on you, which they can, but a lot of the times it's not very convenient, or sometimes it's even impossible. If you just petal on the spot as Lifeweaver and crouch in the center of your petal, you can make yourself impossible to shoot unless they break the petal. If you do that, that means you essentially have a 400 HP Brig Shield. Brig Shield's only 250 HP. Why the fuck does Lifeweaver have a stronger shield than Brig? And I really do think that if you don't use Petal Platform to use high ground, you use it as a shield. Like, when you're playing maps that are way more flat, like Oasis, the way you play Lifeweaver, you basically use like Petal Platform as fucking Brig Shield, which is kind of funny, I guess, but like also like, if he's gonna have a Brig Shield, why the hell has it got 400 health when Briggs only has 250? You know? So I think that Lifeweaver's Petal should only have 200 health. I think it should break more easily, because that means the Lifeweaver has to think more, because they have to worry more about the possibility of their petal being broken and think of the counterplay to that. And it also provides more counterplay to the enemies, because they can fuck up, you know, his platforms by breaking them. Because, like, let's be real, you never break platforms right now. You never do. When do you get the opportunity to pump 400 damage into a platform and it's worth it? Never. But 200, maybe so. That's a squishy, and on a big stationary target, 200 damage isn't that hard to achieve. And I'm fine with that if it means that we can get petal platform more often, which I think would be a good thing, because once again, this character only gets to make plays when they use life grip or use petal platform. So I think they should be able to use it as much as possible and get as much out of it as possible. And I think that his power should be taken away from his ultimate and his heal. Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about Tree of Life. Tree of Life, I like that they gave it something besides just healing, but overhealth was not it, man. I think that the best thing they could do for Tree of Life is revert it to launch Tree of Life, but do what they should have done from the beginning and give it some kind of unique effect. It doesn't even have to be that good. You know, it could be plus 10% damage to allies within the range of the tree. It could be plus 10% speed. It could be whatever. Personally, I think the idea I like most is that enemies within the range of the tree get a 10% speed reduction, making it so that even though it's not a lot, it makes it a little bit easier for allies to escape if the enemies have to run past the tree to get to them. Because they're not only getting healed by the tree, but the enemies are also getting slowed. And remember, this would be the version of the tree that healed literally like a full 33% less than the current version, and also healed less health on impact, like the second you placed it, and also could not grant over health, and also, I believe, on launch the tree only had 800 health instead of 1,000, so, yeah, it would even break faster, which, I think that's what they should do for tree. I think the overhealth tree is bullshit. It's not a fun ultimate. It essentially is just pause. It's just, hey, I use this ultimate, everyone wait like 10 seconds before you continue with the team fight, because everyone's just unkillable now, and there's no point in even trying. Unless you're like a burst damage character who can just like headshot and delete someone from full health. Unless that's the case, like, just don't even bother. Or break the tree if you're Bastion, but like, you know, if you're not Bastion, then have fun.
And to think all that is just to cover the last character. Oh, by the way, at this point I've fully given in to the fact this video is just going to be 2 hours long. There's just no way. Like, this is like my... I mean, obviously, it wasn't literally the same subject every time, but, like, I was covering this kind of material every time I was talking about this problem, even before this patch came out. And, like, literally, I haven't had an attempt under 2 hours yet. Like, at this point, I give up. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. Anyway, but Zen is the final one on the chopping block. Except, he's not on the chopping block. He's actually the only support this patch getting buffed. I understand the logic, but this is terrifying. So, if you didn't know, as bullshit as Zenyatta can seem, he has actually been in his weakest state I've ever seen him in, at least in my recent experience since the end of Overwatch 1. I mean, he was really strong at the end of Overwatch 1. He was really strong at the start of Overwatch 2. Technically he had a weak period, but they very quickly gave him the 225 HP buff and the kick, and then he became very strong. He's been very strong multiple times before, and even when he's not been strong, he's just been okay, and like if you are already good with him, you'll still do good with him. And this has been the first time he's actually been in a bit of a bad state. And even still, he's playable. But the main issue is, Zenyatta usually is just an always good character. Because, quite simply, he has almost no tools to survive if he's dived, at least that's the theory. And he has that because Discord Orb exists. And Discord Orb is one of the most broken free value abilities in the game. Literally, look at the tank, just look at them, don't even have to shoot them, just look at them, and oh hey, now they die 25% faster permanently for the rest of the game. Doesn't sound like a lot at first, but Mercy damage boost is only a 30% boost, and that's only on one person. You can think of this as having a Mercy damage boost on your entire team at once, so long as they're shooting the tank. And a lot of time, people are shooting the tank. So, when you put it like that, it's kind of like a 25% damage boost times 5. Obviously, that's a little bit ridiculous. Obviously, not all 5 of your teammates are going to be firing on the same target at once, but let's say 2 or 3 is not honestly that much of a stretch, and even that is a plus 50% or plus 75% damage boost, so let's just call it a 60. If you call it a 6% damage boost, that's already better than a nano boost in terms of damage amp, and that's an ultimate. This is an ability that doesn't even have a cooldown.
It's literally just look at someone and hope. That, there you go. It's essentially like they're facing down a nano-boosted enemy just because you looked at them. And if they try and hide from you, well, maybe the Discord orb will go away, but the second they peek out again, oh, it's back. Which is obviously bullshit. Anyway, but that's just been a fundamental problem with Zenyatta. He's supposed to be overpowered if he doesn't die, and it's supposed to be hard to stay alive on him. And that has made him a problem character for a while, and there's a decent argument to say that this is just a design that should not exist in this game, but hey, this is where we are right now. Now, as I say, he had a brief period in betas where his HP was increased to 225 because he was struggling. That was a bad idea. He became the most broken support in the game, instantly. Literally, just the second they gave him 225 HP, broke the game. And so they realized their mistake and sent him back to 200, and apparently they haven't learned anything, and they put him back to 225. Whoopee. Okay, I know why they did this. The current meta, Zen has been bad. And the reason Zen has been bad, generally, although still playable, I guess, is because if supports are alive, no one dies. And that's pretty strong. And don't get me wrong, Zen provides a lot of value, but what Zen provides value in is absolutely deleting tanks. And if tanks are already fucking useless right now, what's the point in playing a character who dies more often as a trade-off for being able to just delete tanks? It's not usually worth it anymore in the current meta. Tanks are so ineffectual, why bother playing a character that has a huge weakness for the strength of being able to delete the enemy tank? The enemy tank isn't even really a threat. What is a threat is the enemy supports dueling you, and you dying because you have less survival tools. And sure enough, if a Kiriko comes to fight you up close and you're Zenyatta, then you're going to have a rough time. Though you've both got good damage, you have no escape mechanics, and you don't have a Suzu. Kiriko has a smaller hitbox than you, a Suzu, and about the same DPS output, at least up close. Not to mention, even if all goes wrong, she can just TP out at any moment if she decides she doesn't like the way the fight is going. I think you get the idea. Right now, what is valued in the meta is supports that don't die and make other people not die. And Zen's whole stick is just being like, hey, I make tanks miserable and unable to play the game, but the downside is I die a lot unless I play really, really safe. So this is the bit where it gets concerning. Zen should not be getting buffs, because the reason he is bad right now is not because he is a weak character. He is the same character that has been strong multiple times before in this game. The meta simply does not favor him. The meta currently favors supports that have high survivability and does not favor being a tank buster as a support when we already have all the DPS covering the tank busting, and tanks are already so ineffectual right now. The reason why these buffs are concerning is not only because they're making the exact same mistake they made back in the beta, which we thought they learned from, where they gave him 225 HP, and noticed that even though they only gave him 25 HP, he instantly went from probably the worst support in the game to the best support in the game by a mile, even though it's only 25 HP, quote-unquote. Yeah, that wasn't a great idea. Apparently they didn't learn from it. They're retreading their same steps. They're deciding, ooh, well, you know what? If the character who's supposed to not be good at surviving is bad because he's not surviving, maybe we should make him survive. Oh, wait, we took away his one weakness. They also gave him another buff. Harmony Orb time to wear off is now 5 seconds instead of 3. That's, to be fair, it is a significant buff still, but it's also mostly more of a quality of life change. Obviously, technically, you can just keep keeping an eye on your teammates and keep following around with the Harmony Orb, but it is true that's annoying and tedious, so obviously it's nice to just have the longer hold time on it before it wears off. Here comes the good news. I will say from a design perspective, while I'm still not sure about the balance, this is a good change. Orb of Discord, I've always thought, could actually be a relatively fair ability if it was simply a cooldown. It's one of those things where at first it sounds like such a simple and dumb solution, it's like, come on, really? But actually, if you think about it, it's kind of true. Like, imagine if Discord Orb actually amplified damage even more. Imagine if it was back to its stupid old days when it was 50% damage amp. But imagine it lasted like 3 seconds, and after you used it, you couldn't use it for another 12. Imagine that. Now don't get me wrong, tanks would still have to fear Zen, because Zen might come around the corner, and just when you think you're able to hold off all these enemies firing at you, it puts one Discord Orb on you and you explode. But now, it wouldn't just be Zen's just always staring at you, like keeping that Discord Orb in you. Now it would be like, okay, they have a Zen, I've got to make sure to be ready for that burst of damage. And if you survive that burst of damage, or you stay out the Zen's line of sight, then obviously you would be able to stay alive. Not only because then it's not like, oh, the second you could be seen again, he just discords you again. No, his discord's on cooldown. Now, of course, that's not what's happened here, but we got kind of the next best thing, a pretty close thing to having a cooldown. Orb of Discord can no longer be reapplied to the same target for 7 seconds after the effect has been removed. Range has been increased back from 30 to 40 meters, because you didn't know. Another reason why Zenyatta has been shit recently is because they reduced the range of his Discord Orb from 40 to 30 meters because of the whole, you know, them realizing that it's no fun that Zen just staring at you to delete a tank. The problem is, while that might sound like a nice solution, so like they made it so you have to get close to Discord people with Zen. That makes it fair. It kind of doesn't. Because Zen already does a lot of damage, and 30 meters is still enough that if you just have a lot of damage focused on you, you can't really charge the Zen and kill them for getting too close. But the thing is as well, this also encourages you to play Zen dumb. Zen is literally the #1 most important character to utilize high ground on, except maybe Lifeweaver. You want to play Zen far back. You want to play Zen safe. And as a result, making his Orb of Discord only work up close is, frankly, nonsensical. This is a character who, one of his few skills, I say that, Zen's not a brain-dead character, but of course a lot of it is just all aim, no brain. And one of the only things about Zen that actually did take a decent amount of brain is that because you were playing a character with no escape mechanics, no like instant heal bullshit, any of that stuff, because you were playing a character like that, the way you played him, you had to make sure that you positioned very safely. Very far back, but still in a position where you can see tanks to discord them and throw, you know, primary fireballs at them. And obviously, you know, harmony orbs on teammates. And obviously, make sure you're on high ground and stuff like that. You know, you had to do all that kind of stuff. Zen positioning was very important. And this just said, fuck all your Zen positioning. Now it's just run right into their face. And the stupid thing is, Zen does so much damage, and it's actually easier to land headshots when you get closer to them with the huge size of the orbs, that actually it worked. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it was meta, but it was functional. You could still use Zen with this nerf. You just had to use him dumb. I know from experience, I had some dumb games with Zen on Colosseo where I just took over the lobby, and I don't even think it's because I'm great at Zen. I just kind of ran at people and kicked them and discord them and flinged orbs in their face. I didn't have good positioning. I didn't try to have good positioning because it was Colosseo, so there's not a lot of high ground to work with except when you're already, like, you know, at the bridges, at which point, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I didn't try to position super smart on Zen. I just decided, I'm going to double you. I'm literally going to be the tank as a fucking Zen. And I got away with it, because Zen just does that much damage, and you could just delete people. In fairness, obviously it doesn't work every time. Obviously, it depends on the team. I think it worked for me really well because they had a Lucio and a Mercy, and not only is Lucio and Mercy a bad support comp, but both of those supports are pretty easy to kill as Zenyatta and not too threatening to you. Lucio, if they're a good Lucio, can be threatening, but, well, this Lucio wasn't bad, but, like, I found their movements predictable, so it was pretty easy to hit orbs with them. So I just got in their face and constantly fucked them up. As I say, I literally became the tank. I literally just became the tank. And because Lucio and Mercy don't have much healing output between them, at least instant healing output, I could really just, like, the tank just couldn't hold space. I just spammed them. Anyway, I'm getting a bit sidetracked, but point being, this is a good change in terms of design, reverting the stupid range change, which was a bad nerf, and giving us a real nerf that actually is good. But this came with 2 buffs, which this one I can understand, but the health one, I'm terrified, man. I don't want to see Zen be meta again. I don't. And I feel like this is enough. And even if it isn't enough right now, it will be in the future. When we get out of this shitty heal power creep meta, this is going to be the new, like, pain. This is going to be the new hell. The fresh hell we will enter once we're out of this. This was not a good idea. So yeah. I want to end on a bit of a side tangent. I was honestly thinking of cutting this entirely because of the whole length thing, but again, at this point, I'm saying fuck it. This is already way too long, and there's no way I can make it any shorter. And I really want to add this in. The devs, when they justified why they weren't going to go so hard on this patch, when they said they were going to do the support nerf patch for the mid-season, said that they weren't going to go super hard on the nerfs. Well, I mean, they didn't say that, but they kind of implied it. Because they don't want supports to go back to how they were in the first beta of Overwatch 2. Now, maybe my past self would be appalled if I said this, but you know what? After all this time, I think I'm going to say it. I can hardly believe I'm saying this, but I think we should go back to that beta. Now, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic. I think that beta was just a little bit too mean to supports. I think we should be a little bit nicer to supports than that beta was to them. But I don't think we have to be a whole lot nicer. To put it on a scale, if a 0 is supports can't exist for longer than a second without exploding, and a 10 is supports are immortal gods which never die, we're currently at a 9. And in the first beta, we were at like a 3.5. People act like we were at a 0 in the first beta. We were at a 3.5. And while 3.5 isn't a 5, which is the perfect sweet spot, it's a lot closer to 5 than 9 is. If I could pick right now, even as a support player, would I like to stay in the meta where technically my role is OP, but I'm miserable? Or would I like to go back to the Overwatch 2 beta where my role was constantly being hunted down? Where I literally, no joke, had a game as Ana on Colosseo. My first game on Colosseo as Ana, in the very first beta, I spent the full 12-minute long game doing nothing but running for my life from the same Genji chasing me all game, getting no help from my teammates all game because people hadn't figured out yet how to play without an off-tank, and were used to off-tanks handling the supports whenever they had any trouble. Would I go back to that despite all the issues? I think I have to say yes. Because don't get me wrong, it was stressful thinking to myself as that Ana, holy shit, I want to just sit here and use this high ground and sit far back and heal my team, but this Genji just keeps running at me, my team's never comes to help me, and high ground doesn't help me because he can wall climb, and I'm just running for my life all game, every game, like non-stop, just constantly running, jumping, running, jumping, shooting, nading myself, throwing out sleep darts. And don't get me wrong, it was definitely rough and it definitely was a little bit over the top. But at the end of the day, it was a challenge. And when I won a game, I knew that I had earned it. I don't feel that way anymore. Even as a support player in the current meta where supports are really good, I do not feel like I earn wins or earn losses anymore. I don't feel like I lose because I failed or won because I succeeded. I feel like things happen. It's all out of our control, and the most control we can have over the game is what character we pick rather than how we play those characters. That's how it feels right now. And I feel like I would rather go back to that old beta where my role was in the dumpster if you took the average person's opinion. If it means that we could finally get the game back to a state where it feels like you actually succeed based on how well you play your character, not who you play. And you actually have control of the game. Because I'll tell you this. I had a bit of a rude awakening when I played that in that first beta. Which is why at the time, my opinion was much more in line with the popular opinion that supports did have it a bit too rough. In that beta, well, at the time, as I say, I had only been playing Overwatch on PC for 2 months. And as I say, PC was a completely different experience. My time playing on Xbox on console all the way back in the old days, when I would get quadruple DPS Roadhog and I'm the only support every game, and would never get any protection, and it would basically just be a massive deathmatch where I would be stressed running around the map constantly, just trying to keep people alive. That was not proper Overwatch. That was a mess. And so obviously, I would kind of say I'd only really had 2 months to really learn how to play the game. I knew how all the characters worked, but knowing how normal games played out, that was a new experience for me on PC, and I'd only had 2 months of that experience by the time that the first beta came around. I remember that before I played my first games of the beta, while I was waiting for it to open up, I played a game of Overwatch 1, of course. And I was playing Ana on King's Row. And I remember that game honestly felt like the epitome of everything great about support in Overwatch 1. Though I'm not saying it was perfect, because there were downsides to this that hurt other players, but it at least felt good for the support. That being that, as that Ana, I got to sit there on high ground on King's Row and hard hold first point and destroy. I just got to sit there with shields protecting me, enemies not able to get anywhere near me, my tanks, 2 of them, just constantly being pumped with healing, not having any reduction on the ult charge I gain from healing like you do in Overwatch 2, meaning I was farming a nano boost every minute, just firing them off constantly, throwing out sleep darts, and don't get me wrong, it was really fun and really satisfying and I enjoyed it a lot. But obviously it kind of implies, wow, that's kind of not a good thing, that I really could just sit in the back on high ground and just literally spend the whole game in one spot, just going heal, 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 sleep dart, heal, 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 nade, heal, heal, nano boost, heal, heal, just constantly just that. Like, I don't get me wrong, I still kind of enjoyed it just because I find it really satisfying, the healing on Ana, even though some people find it boring. But obviously, for other people, that's not super fun. Then the Overwatch 2 beta starts, and I go to have my first game on Ana, and I'm excited. And I walk out of my first game, and I get fucking dumpstered. I get destroyed. The last game I just played in Overwatch 1, I was just going crazy on Ana. I was getting 12,000 plus heals in quick play games, and often ending with 1 or 0 deaths, while having decent damage to boot. And then I move into Overwatch 2, and now I can't spend 2 seconds out of spawn without exploding. And of course, at first, this is horrible. At first, I hate it. At first, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I just want to stay alive for 2 seconds. But with the new DPS passive, which at the time was a 10% speed boost to all movement speed of all characters, every character in the game outruns me that's a DPS, which are the main ones who are going to be coming for me. Genji was good back then, so Genji was very popular and everywhere and hunting me down in every game. And supports hadn't gotten a lot of buffs that they did get at the start of Overwatch 2. And so, yeah, support was rough. And on Ana, now not having an off-tank anymore to protect me, and with other people not understanding how the game would change without an off-tank, so that the supports don't get any protection, and the supports don't know to protect themselves, and, you know, heal chain themselves and act as their own off-tanks to each other, which is how it kind of works now. Not knowing all that stuff, yeah, I went into my first few games, and I died a lot. I don't think I'd ever seen myself get a double-digit death count on Ana before, but I did in my very first game in Overwatch 2. And I was dumbfounded. I didn't know what happened. And the next game, it happened again and again. And I think my first day of playing the Overwatch 2 beta, I got nothing but, like, horrible games on Ana where I died constantly. And don't get me wrong, obviously that felt horrible. But I didn't want to give up on the game. And so I kept playing, and I learned how to play differently. I learned how to play really far back. So far back that the Genji would have to use dash to reach me instead of to attack me. At which point, that's one cooldown down. As well as that, even once they use dash, they usually had to wall climb up to me, and I'd usually start shooting on them before they even started wall climbing, which sometimes even baited out their deflect. By which point, by the time they actually get in my face, they have no cooldowns, and if they're moved predictably enough, I get the sleep dart. Obviously, it took a lot of time, but eventually it got to the point where I actually started winning against these Genjis that were everywhere. Quite a lot, too. And eventually, by the end of that beta, I kind of had a different opinion on Ana in that beta. At the start of that beta, I thought that Ana was dead. I thought that, holy shit, you really just can't stay alive. Like, you try to stand next to your tank, but then your tank has to make space, so they just run in without you. And then it's like, well, do I follow my tank? But if I stay too close to my tank, I'm going to be too far forward. Do I just sit back here, but then no one's going to help me when I get in trouble? What the hell do I do? I had to learn how to adapt, quite frankly. And don't get me wrong, I think it was still a bit unfair. It was a little bit harder than it should have been, but it was doable. And it was very rewarding. As much as if I wanted to relax, I would rather go into Overwatch 1, and in fact, every now and then during the betas, I did stop playing Overwatch 2 to go play Overwatch 1, even while Overwatch 2 was right there, just because Overwatch 1 was less stressful as a support. I could just sit in the back and pump heals and get loads of ults and just have that nice dopamine hit of just seeing the number go up. But I didn't mean to stop playing Overwatch 2. I fully enjoyed the Overwatch 2 games when I was in the mood for them, because they were so much more rewarding. Even if the number didn't go up quite so much, even if I had to fight a lot harder just to stay alive, when I won a game as Ana in Overwatch 2, I knew it was a skill diff. I knew that I won because I constantly predicted the Genjis that were after me and their movements. I constantly sleep darted them. I constantly got shots on them. I constantly positioned themselves in places to make their dives as awkward as possible. And almost every time I had to deal with it all myself because, again, people still hadn't really adjusted to how to play as a team in 5v5. And there was a lot of people just kind of playing as lone wolves. Even before I learned how to adapt to the new environment in 5v5 in Overwatch 2, in the very first beta when support was really weak, even when I hadn't yet adapted, I still acknowledged one thing. But it was my opinion that support had now become the high-risk, high-reward role. That support provided more power to the team than any other role, only one problem. It's hard as hell to stay alive on them. And that, I think, should be how it is. At the time, I didn't think that. At the time, I thought that was a little bit of a scary prospect. At the time, I wasn't sure. I kind of thought to myself, I don't know. I don't know if I want every game to be so stressful. And to be fair, obviously, preferably not every game would be. But here's another thing that changed my mind. I didn't notice because I played so much Ana. At least I didn't notice at first. But Ana was the main support who really got fucked over in Overwatch 2's first beta. And even then, Ana has such irreplaceable utility. She wasn't bad, just tough. Real tough. But the reward for being able to execute on her was enough that she was still worth playing. The other support who really struggled was Zen. Well, and you know what happened to Zen. One buff, and he goes from the worst to the best, and breaks the game wide open. Clearly, he didn't really need that much help. Probably shouldn't have stayed at like just the unbuffed version of him, but maybe the 225 HP wasn't a good idea, and maybe he just needed a little nudge and not a big buff like an extra 25 HP on a support whose weakness is supposed to be their survivability. Looking at other characters in their beta though, I feel like it wasn't really accurate to say support was weak. Moira, for once, was good. Brig was fine, not quite as broken as she usually was, for once in a healthy spot. I would say that Brig had her niche and felt decent to play, but also didn't feel very oppressive in the very first betas, which is a good thing. Mercy felt great. Lucio felt amazing. A lot of the higher mobility, more fun supports, the ones with the less oppressive mechanics, were the ones that were really shining in this beta, and I think that was a good sign. And a lot of the ones that were struggling were some of the more oppressive supports that we hate now. The Annas, the Brigittas, and of course the Baptistes. But this made me realise, is there really a problem then? Because the only supports who were struggling, I would say in that beta, were Ana, Zen, Brig, and Bap. And even Brig, I say struggling compared to how she was in Overwatch 1 where she was overpowered, so I wouldn't even really say Brig. So it's basically just Ana, Bap, Zen. Bap was actually insanely strong. He only wasn't doing well because the meta was Dive, and well, Dive is pretty good against Bap because of the fact that Bap is not very fast to get away. Bap is basically unkillable because of all his extra HP pulls in a normal situation, but if an entire team is just faster than him and collapses on him to kill him off, obviously if it becomes a 5v1 and the Bap can't escape, yeah, no amount of heal burst or immortality field is going to save you. And because it was a dive meta at the start of Overwatch 2, that's what happened. Bap got ran over, not because he was a weak character, but because he was not meant for this meta. And of course, the devs didn't take note of that and they overbuffed him to hell and back, and now he's breaking the game now in the future. And we're paying the price for it. Either way, so Bap was not really in a bad place, really. He just wasn't in the right meta. Zen, maybe you could argue he was in a bad place, but once again, I don't think so. I think it was just because it was a dive meta. And once again, Zen's gonna get destroyed in a dive meta. And that only leaves Ana. Ana, I think, is the only one you could make an argument for being, well, you know, weak, too weak in that beta. But again, as I said before, she's just so rewarding if you can survive on her. She had the best single target heal ability in the game. It probably still does to this day, but like, it was more of a clear victory. There really was no one who could provide as much healing as Ana could. I really think we need to go back to this idea that I noticed support was becoming at the start of the Overwatch 2 beta. We need to go back to support, yes, being the strongest role in the game, so long as they can stay alive. But staying alive needs to be hard. It needs to be doable, but it needs to be hard. It needs to be that the more mobile supports can use their escape mechanics and their movement mechanics to be able to do that. And the less mobile supports, well, they've got to rely on pure positioning and aim skill. And yet, is that where we are right now? Of course, no. If we look at this roster of characters, Baptiste, Kiriko, and Lifeweaver all not only have instant life-saving buttons, but also have buttons which save their own lives at the press of a button with no skill required at all. Illari has Healing Pylon, which has very minimal skill involved in using it, and as long as you exist nearby it, makes you effectively immortal in a 1v1 unless you seriously fuck up. And Ana is the only one who's even slightly reasonable, but once you pair Ana with Brig, that goes out the window, and the heal boost from nading yourself makes you near unkillable unless people can hard focus you, which is hard when you're in the back line, and providing more healing to your tank than any other character in the game could consistently. While also being the only character in the game with access to anti-heal in a meta where healing is way too high, making you also the strongest character in the game when it comes to playmaking. I should take a moment to acknowledge that not every support here is a problem, and once again, basically all the supports that aren't a problem right now all of the more mobile ones. Lucio, Mercy, Moira. These characters are fine right now. These characters are just fine. In fact, the only complaint I have about any of these characters is for Lucio, and it's him being underpowered in the current meta. Not actually that he needs buffs underpowers necessarily, except maybe a buff to his boop, but more that speed is kind of useless in this meta because everyone just becomes an impenetrable fortress of infinite health, healing, and damage. And so having speed doesn't really help you that much. So Lucio feels kind of useless right now. But that's because of the meta, not because Lucio is a weak character. The longer I've thought about it, we need to return to the Overwatch 2 beta days. The first beta, when support, had a rough time. Again, probably be a little bit nicer than those beta days. Again, it'd be nice if not every game on Ana I had to spend the entire game sprinting for my life away from a Genji who literally will not leave me alone all game and receiving no help from my other support, my tank, or either of my DPS all game. Basically just having a deathmatch with this Genji all game, That would be nice and preferable. Obviously there's extremes here, but God, we need to move in that direction. Because at least, once again, at least then, even if I might have some frustrations when I lose some games, when I win a game, I'll know I'll deserve it. I'll know that I won that game because I played better, and not because, oh, well, I picked Zarya when they picked Orisa, so now we win.